Thank you very much. Before we start our regular board meeting, we always allow 30 minutes for public comments, and so we're going to take that 30 minutes now. But what I'm going to do is we have, and I hope those outside can hear me, the color guard, you can relax for about 30 minutes, but we're going to do public comments first. We're going to, because when we have the same topic being discussed, we can modify the time. So I see on the public testimony sheet that the first 18 people are all on magnet program transportation. And what I will say before you start clapping is that we only have 30 minutes. Each of you will get 1 minute. The next group of people is 12 of you. That's for principal sharing budget cuts. Each of you will have 1 minute. That gives us 28 minutes. And if there's minimum clapping, we can get to 2 more people. If there's a lot of clapping, then it ends up not being able to take in as many speakers as we can. But this is the first 30 minutes, and we're going to start now. And the first 5 people up is Andrea Aragoza, Melissa Solon, Bevelyn Shea, Michael Kennedy, Janine Lee. If you would all come forward. And while they're, rethinking their 1 minute presentation, if someone in front of you says something, then just try to carry on with the next part of your conversation. And then let me just also say that a lot of these discussions are around the budget. The board has done their budget. Our next budget is due in June. It'll be hard to make any decisions over the next month or so because we have to look at the impact that we'll get from the stimulus package, how that will be included. We also have to look at the election in May and how that affects our budget and the May revise. So before we start making any kind of adjustments, all of that has to be considered. So we will listen to your comments, but if you're expecting something to happen really quickly, what I would say is you're going to have to wait till after we get all the other information before we make any decisions. So having said that, the first 5 people seem to be in place. We'll go ahead and get started. Ms. Ward, a minute each, please.
Hi, my name is Andrea Aragoza, and this is Melissa Slonim. We are concerned parents from Spreckles Bilingual Magnet. We are here to express our support for magnet programs and the transportation needed to maintain them. We have information and suggestions gathered from over 500 letters from students and parents, as well as a transportation survey we conducted at our school. As you know, the district has requirements to maintain magnet status. Spreckles excels at this at every level. First, magnet schools must have diversity and attract students from outside neighborhood attendance zones. Spreckles is a center for learning for 771 kids. We have a very diverse population, and many of our students are transported from Southeast San Diego. The importance of diversity is mentioned consistently in the letters and surveys that the parents of Spreckles completed. And let's see, schools like Spreckles help to protect the district against costly litigation such as the Carlin integration case, which ordered the district to develop a plan for racial integration to alleviate minority group isolation. The second requirement for magnets is to have high achievement. Spreckles is ranked 8 out of 10 on AYP.
Thank you. Next, please.
It is time to start cutting things that don't work, not things that do. This is time to reward schools like Spreckles that consistently fulfill the district's goals as a high achievement school. The U.S. Education Secretary is calling for innovation in bridging achievement gaps between students and is rewarding schools with the $5 billion stimulus plan. You, the board, should be praising and emulating schools like Spreckles and magnets like it, and this is how the district can earn the right to receive part of this stimulus money. We need buses because by their nature, magnets need buses to get kids from all over the county, including underprivileged students who don't have a bus. There are ways to reduce the costs, and you must explore the options, not just cut them entirely. Save buses for some schools. Raise the number of students per area for a bus route to be established. Provide busing one way. Have fewer bus stops, charge for bus passes. It's working in other areas for 75 cents to $2 a day. Eliminate or alter other programs like 6th grade camp in Old Town and Balboa Park, which are not as big a priority. What about VEAP and program improvement? We have enough.
Your name, please.
Melissa Slonim.
Thank you.
My name is Bailing Shaw. I'm president of the Language Academy PTA. On behalf of the parents, teachers, and students at our school, I respectfully request that the Board of Education reconsider its proposal to cut transportation funding for dedicated magnet schools for next year. A preliminary analysis by the Language Academy PTA shows that cutting magnet transportation actually may not save the school district any money in terms of overall educational costs. You can see this in your handout. In short, not busing students to Language Academy may reduce the transportation budget, but it would increase the overall educational costs for our bus riders and thus for the school district. Language Academy PTA would be grateful for the opportunity to work with the Board of Education to preserve free transportation for dedicated magnet schools in the next school year. We would also like to invite the board members to visit our unique school next week at your convenience. Please, please restore transportation to our dedicated magnet school, the Language Academy.
Is Michael Kennedy up? Janine Liddy?
Michael Kennedy is stuck in traffic, but his comments are in our packet.
Okay, thank you. Janine Liddy, Jill Monvenu, I'm sorry, Jane Brown, Alexandra Delgado, Bland Cox. Are any of those in the audience? Okay. Your name, please?
My name is Bland Cox. 4 years ago, I moved my family to Scripps Ranch so that my daughter Christina could attend one of the best public high schools in not just the city or state, but in the U.S. Why then do I send my sons over 30 miles round trip on a bus each day to a school that is obviously not in Scripps Ranch? Because I am giving them the opportunity to be bilingual, biliterate members of our community. The Language Academy, a dedicated magnet school, has committed teachers that have done an excellent job teaching my sons to read, write, and speak in Spanish and English. I am so grateful for all they have done. Without magnet school transportation, I'm afraid that many parents will be unable to get their kids to this bilingual school. They will be forced to put their students in monolingual schools in their neighborhoods. When enrollment drops, many teachers will be forced to leave. Funding will be compromised and the program will be at risk. The principals, teachers, and staff members who have worked so hard to produce a bilingual French and Spanish program will see their hard work unravel. Please do not make any decisions that jeopardize their vision and continued success. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Alexandra Delgado. The Language Academy has made me who I am today. I have attended the school since kindergarten. Both my older brother and sister have attended the school, and it has taught us to learn and understand new cultures, which I love and enjoy so much. The school has so much to offer to us students. All the students that have or still do attend the school are bilingual and or biliterate. Some of the students, such as myself, are trilingual and or triliterate. I don't believe taking our buses will better our school. Rather, it will possibly have to close down. But most parents, including mine, are not always available to either pick up or drop off their children. Do you really believe that ending our bus transportation is the best choice for dedicated magnet schools? To me, although I am not the only one, it isn't a fair choice to cancel most of our transportations to our school. We all love attending the Language Academy, and when I speak for everyone. Please restore transportation to our dedicated magnet school, the Language Academy.
Thank you. Charles Matthew, Kimberly De Bazuna, Nikki Adams, Rita Brandt, Diane Herska, Julie Harris, Bobby Window, Robert Henderson, Sophie Halvin, Yes.
Kimberly Leversunza, am I next?
Yes.
Kimberly Leversunza, 447 Los Angeles Place, 92114. I spent 5 years researching school options for my son. I chose Language Academy's French program. My son rides across town every day to learn French. I was shocked 2 weeks ago to read the board actions on Wednesday morning, shocked as my stomach fell to the floor thinking, how will my son get to and from school? And then it occurred to me, it's not about my son, it's about all the students at Language Academy. Maybe I can figure out how to get him back and forth, I don't know. But this school will fail without its buses. 57% of its students ride the bus every day. If even 30% of those 57 couldn't get there, the school would fall apart. Its dual immersion program in Spanish couldn't function without its 50-50 enrollment. The French program is the only one in a public school in the state of California. You're going to throw that away? You're willing to risk that? I can't believe it.
My name is Nikki Adams. I am here to discuss the Sophie's Choice situation. I believe that cuts would be more logically made in the suspension, not the termination of the OSILE program, impacting 3 grade levels for 4 days out of 180 school days versus impacting 13 grade levels at 37 schools for all 180 days of each school year, with multiple detrimental effects at those schools. A summary of how the loss of ADA and Title I funds to those schools would have a substantial negative impact upon the magnet schools of personnel crucial to the magnet. Please do not gut our highly successful magnet programs. Do not take our magnet buses away. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Reed Brandt, and I am the mother of 2 wonderful magnet students. My oldest is a 4.0 student at CPMA Middle. My youngest is a student at Lindbergh Schweitzer Magnet and is also thriving in academics. I'm here tonight to ask the board to reconsider the stopping of busing to magnet schools. I strongly believe that if busing is cut out, then only the children of the parents who can afford it would be able to continue to attend magnet schools in the district and benefit from the enriched education provided at magnets. This would create a financial discrimination. If the students who are currently bused to magnet schools all need to return to their neighborhood schools, well, there simply isn't enough room for them there. This would mean moving bungalows, which is very costly, or creating classrooms on the stage or in the auditorium. In short, overcrowded campuses, playgrounds, lunchrooms, and halls. Please don't stop the magnet busing. This would negatively affect thousands of children, including my own. Thank you for your consideration.
Good afternoon. My name is Diane Haruska. My daughter is an 8-year-old and she attends Lindbergh Schweitzer Elementary Multimedia Magnet School. I'm not just here as a parent, but I'm here on behalf of all of the parents and more importantly all of the children who will be affected should you decide to eliminate busing transportation from our magnet programs. It's a fact that there aren't just 3 sets of buses that provide transportation for the magnet, the VEEP, and the special education students, but they share these buses together in multiple routes. And the savings that you guys were first suggested are not just going to be, it's going to cost more money to run a bus that's half empty with just special education students on them. I think it's also very, very important to continue to provide our children with the opportunity of a positive and diverse educational experience, which is what they get when they are able to come to participate in the magnet programs. If the funding for transportation for magnet schools is cut, we'll be denying our children this critical component of their education. Thank you. And we'll be failing to prepare them for the 21st century.
My name is Charles Matthews. I'm a parent of 2 students at San Diego School of Creative and Performing Arts, and they rely on the busing for transportation. It has brought to my knowledge that San Diego SCPA has the highest graduating rate in the city of San Diego, and if they were to lose the transportation, that would affect the students that come to that school and possibly risk closing of the school itself. And to me, it would seem a shame for a school that has such academic achievement as well as achievement in the arts for that to happen to that school. So just I'm hoping that there's some other solution or some alternatives that can be considered other than the eliminating the transportation to the magnet schools. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Julie Harris, and I'm here today as a proud parent of a San Diego Unified Magnet School graduate to thank you from the bottom of my heart for providing a magnet bus that made it possible for my daughter to attend SCPA. She was accepted to UCLA Theater Arts program, and she is now a successful working actor and dance teacher. Could she have attended SCPA without a magnet bus ride every day? No. Thank you for the bus rides you gave her. Thank you for making her dreams come true. What the magnet bus ride did was to give her an equal opportunity to attend the magnet school of her choice. Now multiply this story by thousands and thousands of students in 37 magnet schools over the past decades, and you've got tens of thousands of success stories that will stop happening next year if you eliminate magnet busing, which is the heart and soul of the magnet program. It would be a sad, sad day if students in our district were no longer able to attend the magnet school of their choice. I don't want to be the last parent to stand up here and thank you for those crucial bus rides.
Hello, my name is Sophie Halvin. I have 2 children at the Language Academy in the French program, 3rd grader and 6th grader. I also teach French. I've been a college teacher for a number of years, and so I wanted to bring the perspective of a language teacher in this debate. Over the years, I've seen how hard it is for adults to learn a foreign language for the first time, so I want to emphasize what a wonderful opportunity it has been for our children to have a bilingual program. However, we know that for the program to work, it has to be continuous. I have students at the college level who were in immersion programs before and who, for one reason or another, didn't go through with the program. And as adults, I have noticed that they have retained very little, if anything, of the fluency that they once had. So this program works, but it has to be continuous. When we signed up our children, we made a commitment to let them stay for the full duration of the program. We hope this can happen and the Language Academy doesn't close its door. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bobby Wendell. I have a daughter in 3rd grade French immersion, and my son is in kindergarten Spanish immersion. My children take the bus due to the fact that my husband and I work outside of the home. My husband's in the Navy, so we lived in Spain for several years and have traveled all over the world. During our time abroad, it became painfully apparent that citizens of other countries are much more globally aware compared to Americans. School children in other countries learn at least 2 languages. Often they learn 3 or more. I was thrilled to find the Language Academy when we moved to San Diego. Language competence and multicultural awareness are integral to citizenship in the global community in which our children will live. It really breaks my heart to think that there is a possibility that my children will not be attending the Language Academy next year. This is not just a budget cut. The Language Academy offers our children the benefits of multicultural, multilingual education. So beyond throwing away such an amazing program that many parents would otherwise not be able to afford, these children are going to lose close friends, many, many caring teachers, nurses, secretaries, and volunteers. Please restore transportation to our dedicated magnet school, the Language Academy.
My name is Robert Henderson, and my child attends the Language Academy. I have a daughter in the 1st grade French immersion program. We currently live in La Mesa School District, and my daughter is driven to school daily by my wife, who spends numerous hours volunteering at the school. The only reason that my daughter is a student at the San Diego Unified School District is because of the Language Academy and its special dedicated magnet program. Elimination of the busing transportation for dedicated magnet schools will probably cause the Language Academy to close down. If that happens, the school district will actually lose money. Language Academy has 72 students who attend on out-of-district permits. Out-of-district students are not bused, but provide their own transportation to the Language Academy. If the Language Academy closes, these students would not be attending San Diego Unified School District schools. Instead, they would probably go back to their own school districts where they live. At the full ADA rate of $32.32 per day for 180 days, these out-of-district students bring in more than $419,000 to the school district. That's more than what you're cutting in your budget.
Next, we will hear from Sharon Jones, Lisa Bonerake, Steve Gall, Rebecca Colson, Angie Freeman, Linda Parks, Tiffany Da Silva, Cindy Edson, Paula Cohen, Sarah Simmons, and that will close out our first 30 minutes. So let me read those names again as they're coming. Sharon Jones, Lisa Bonerake, Stephen Gall, Rebecca Colson, Angie Freeman, Linda Parker, Tiffany Da Silva, Cindy Edson, Paula Cohen, Sarah Simmons, and this is on principal sharing. You each have 1 minute. Please start. Thank you.
I am Stephen Gall, parent of a Bird Rock Elementary School student. We are gravely concerned about the decision made by this board to remove a full-time principal from our school and from 21 other San Diego elementary schools. Currently, Bird Rock Elementary performs well by every measure for San Diego. To propose that we take this successful school and remove its leader defies logic. Schools need principals, not one half a principal. They need leaders who have the expertise, time, and presence on campus to successfully lead the schools and the local communities that rely on them. If you force our schools to share principals, then you cut off the heads of the organizations and prescribe a slide towards failure. Catherine Nakamura was quoted in the San Diego Union Tribune and in front of angry parents on March 13th, stating that shared principals are, quote, a stupid idea. Principals themselves tell us that the job cannot be done part-time. Council tells us that the decision will be viewed as grossly negligent. We agree. You made this decision to save $1.45 million. It will not save nearly that much money, and I'll share that with you if you give me more time. In fact, instead of saving money, it will open the district to massive liability for lawsuits when parents, students, teachers, and staff have no one at the school to come to with their serious issues regarding their health, safety, and welfare.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm Lisa Bonerake, representing Bird Rock and PB Elementary. In the approved budget, these sites are now slated to share one principal for 765 students or more. What will happen should there be a natural disaster, a weapon on campus, a personal tragedy, or other unforeseen issue? Without a principal, vice principal, or counselor, who holds the tremendous responsibility of handling emergencies? All schools need a full-time principal. Instead of forcing schools to share principals, which would save the $1.5 million, we see these as better choices. The district must charge or suspend the $6.6 million OSILE field trip program. The public isn't allowed to help fund district positions such as principals, but we can help fund field trips. Let communities raise these funds if they choose. Number two, allow parents to pay for $1.5 million in school supplies listed in the board's Plan B cuts. We can't pay for principals, but we can purchase paper and books. Add an additional furlough day just for central office staff. This saves $1.6 million in 8 hours. Cut central office staff duties from 12 months to 11. If one day saves $1.6 million, think of what a month can do. Thank you for letting me share tonight. All of these alternatives are great. Citizens like us would be happy to help you find better options so we can keep our principals.
Thank you.
Good evening, Rebecca Cozen of Whitman Elementary. I'm both a teacher and a parent of a Whitman Elementary School student. We live in the neighborhood. It's our neighborhood school. It would be a travesty for us to lose our principal half-time. Our school has only 357 students, but of those 357 students, over 70% of our students are economically disadvantaged, receiving free lunch. We have 7 special day classes, including SEI, ILS, and deaf and hard of hearing. We have 139 IEPs in total, which is 39% of our student population. We currently have our nurse only 1 day a week, and our counselor only 1 3/4 days a week. Because we are a small school, our principal must act not only as a principal, but vice principal and counselor as well. We also have several students who have severe who have behavior problems, and a counselor couldn't handle it. We need a principal full-time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Angie Freeman. I am the secretary of Sunset View Elementary School. The impact on the office staff having one principal sharing two sites can ultimately have legal implications on this district. Principals are gone from the site much too often due to mandatory meetings. Should you decide to go ahead with a .5 principal, that will only give us a principal 1/3 of the time that students are on site, leaving non-administrative staff to make decisions that only a principal has the responsibility of making. On-the-spot decisions need to be made on a daily basis, ranging from medical and site emergencies to crucial parent concerns. Our staff, parents, and students deserve to have their pending matters answered in a timely manner. The quality of customer service that we offer our students and parents will also be compromised. While we are all competent and professional employees, classified staff is already tasked with extra job duties that are not listed on our job descriptions and not compensated appropriately. Please do not ask us to make decisions that solely belong to a principal for the good of all our stakeholders. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Linda Parker, and I'm principal at Sunset View Elementary School. This is a school that's slated to be paired with a smaller school next year. As principal, I am responsible for the safety and welfare of each child on campus, the supervision of staff, and professional development of staff. Developing relationships with parents, staff, campus organizations such as PTA and Foundation, and most importantly, with students. I'm also responsible for the budget and the daily site operations, as well as attending required off-site meetings. The reality is that a principal of two schools will be at each less than half-time, yet remain responsible for both full-time. I respectfully ask the board to consider the impact on our students and to revisit this issue. A part-time principal increases the liability to the district, board, and principal. I also invite you to come to our school to observe firsthand the reality of the responsibility. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Cindy Edson, a parent, and my address is on file. We need a full-time leader in every school. I'm addressing 3 health and safety concerns that having a half or less of a principal would raise for our elementary school. First, who is responsible and accountable when there are medical emergencies at the school? What about when medication or first aid needs administering to a student? We only have a nurse 1 day a week on the campus as it is. Who is responsible and accountable when a fire, earthquake, or other natural disaster occurs? Who is responsible when we need to conduct fire drills, if there's an on-campus emergency, or if the school goes into lockdown? Who is responsible and accountable for discipline on the campus when there are fights or disruptions by the students in the classes? Who is responsible when there are threats and disruptions? Please help us.
Thank you very much.
My name is Tiffany De Silva. I'm a parent of an elementary school student. I also hold a California teaching credential. My address is on file. Like any large organization, there needs to be a CEO, and at the school level, that person is the principal. Would you take the head of Amazon and ask them to split their time with eBay? No, it wouldn't make sense. There is no substitute to having the principal there. No teacher nor parent can have the same impact that a principal has. What message would we be sending to the students about attendance and accountability when the principal isn't even there? All schools need a principal to support the teachers. The immediate daily availability of a principal is vital to limiting interruptions to instruction time due to discipline problems, emergency needs of the teacher, and the like. In this society where respect for authority is already deteriorating, we need them present and available more than ever. I implore the board to consider all possible alternatives to this preposterous idea of robbing our kids of an irreplaceable leader on their campus. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Paula Cohen, and I'm a parent of a child in San Diego Unified. My address is on file. Let's not further degrade the quality of public education in San Diego. The 1/3 principal, as we've now started to call it, is detrimental to students, faculty, and staff. Please remove this from Budget Plan A. I very much regret to say that our small schools are better off closed than unsupported and left with half a principal. These schools need leadership more than ever. Our neighborhood schools matter. Don't further strain struggling schools by limiting their leadership when students may be better served on another campus. Keep sensible cuts such as shortening the school year with the furlough and the reduction and elimination of magnet school transportation.
Please.
Consider temporary elimination of the OSO program at Balboa and Old Town. Also, please strike Plan B items 18 through 28. They are dangerous and detrimental to our students.
Thank you. Please, let's respect everyone. Thank you. Let's respect everyone's opinion. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Simmons. I am a new parent to the school district with children in first grade and kindergarten at Cabrillo Elementary. I am greatly concerned about the principal sharing proposal. We are part of a small school that in the past has had a less than stellar reputation. We have finally obtained a principal that is turning that reputation around. He has monthly coffee meetings with the parents, has a PTA for the first time in years, and his priority is our children. Many parents that volunteer this year did not last year solely due to Mr. Suarez. The parents of our school are excited about the future at Cabrillo. Please don't take away this positive learning environment by taking away the availability of our administrator. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon Jones over there. Okay, thank you. This will conclude our public comments for this particular part of the board meeting. Okay, we need to continue our meeting. Thank you. Thank you. We'll continue on with the regular meeting in just a second. The color guard, you can start preparing as soon as the last person there is out of your way. Okay. Again, thank you very much. The Navy JROTC Color Guard from Point Loma High School will now present the colors. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ready, cut. Exit, up. Order, cut. Ready, cut. Up, first. Port, cut. Out, arch, up. Up.
Thank you very much. To be seated. Good afternoon. I'm Sheila Jackson, President of the Board. I would like to welcome all present today and call the March 24th, 2009 regular board meeting to order with all board members present. We hope the discussion and decisions you observe today will give you a better understanding and appreciation of the important part that you play in setting the course of education in the San Diego Unified School District. Agendas for today's meetings are available at both entryways to the auditorium, at the information desk located near the press table, and on the internet at www.sandy.net. In addition to the broadcast on our ITV and live webcast, we are using Board Docs, the web-based program, to enhance governance, reduce the amount of paper we generate, and provide for better communications with the public. The board requests that those individuals with pagers and cell phones please turn them off or put them on the silent mode while you're in the auditorium. And that during the meeting, please enter and exit the auditorium by using the door at the back or to my left in front of the press table. The board welcomes your comments in writing or during public testimony. Public testimony request forms are located at the tables to my right, inside the front and back entrances to the auditorium. The board asks that speakers focus their comments on issues and not on individuals. Acceptance of public testimony requests will be closed as each agenda item is called and our discussion begins. Board members are interested in your comments. The superintendent and his staff will be responding to issues we hear today. If you wish to address the board today and your name is not on the blue sheet and you have not already submitted a request testimony form, please complete the form and submit it to Ms. Ward. Speaker on agenda items will be called to speak during the discussion of an agenda item. Agenda item testimony is limited to a maximum of 20 minutes per consent or action item, allowing for a maximum of 10 minutes per opposing viewpoint and a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. No deferral of time is allowed. Non-agenda items was heard at 5 p.m. and will be heard again at the end of the meeting. Testimony is limited to 15 minutes per item and 3 minutes per speaker. No deferral of time is allowed. The board operates under the Robert's Rules of Order, which confer upon the governing body and the audience participation in proceedings in a civil and courteous manner. At this time, will the ASB representative, by himself today, okay, introduce himself and tell us a bit about yourself and what's going on at your schools, both academically and socially.
Good afternoon, board members, President Shalia Jackson, Superintendent Torrey Greer, and community members present today. My name is Jose Bojorquez. I'm the ASB president at Kearney High School, and I'm also the president of the Council of ASB Presidents. Unfortunately, Brian couldn't be here with us today because he had to do some important things. Some of the updates in the council, we have a student congress this next Wednesday here at 3 p.m. We will be discussing budget cuts, such as transportation and magnet. In my school, we have regional air bands, which means all the schools around San Diego District will be performing at Kearney starting at 7. That's this Friday. We also had a blood drive today at my school, and we, for 2 years, raised 200 pints of blood, so that was pretty good. That's a new record for our school. I wanted to take this time to let you know how getting rid of the magnet transportation would affect high schools and personally our case. If you get rid of magnet transportation at my school, we would be 30% of the students at my school ride the bus. When I was sitting on the bus, I'm part of the magnet program, and so are my two brothers. When I was here and they were like, well, what am I gonna do with sports? CIF a rule, if you go to another high school, you cannot do their sport. My brother runs cross country, so he won't lose one season because he's gonna have to go to the neighborhood school. My mom can't give him a ride. We're not capable of doing that. So that's one thing. Another is, so getting rid of the magnet transportation will put many students' dreams away. One of mine was to go to a construction school. I researched when I was in 8th grade to go to Construction Tech Academy, and the magnet transportation allowed me to go there. So if we get rid of the magnet transportation, it will really put many students' dreams away. So I ask you to please reconsider the magnet transportation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Today we have the band from Morris coming in. Ms. Nakamura talks frequently about our music program, and for a long time at Morris we did not have a music program. They have a wonderful director this year. I just happened to be on campus one day and I heard this awesome music I thought was a recording or something, and lo and behold we have a band. So I thought that I would invite them to share today, and the band director is Mr. Andrew Bearden.
Somebody must have heard it. I said, that's why if you don't have the money, you better spend it.
Yes, we can go around stand in front if you want to.
I can hear just as well back here. Hey, Jorge, yell sad.
Thank you very much. Members of the board, members in the audience, my name is Andrew Bearden. I'm the director of music at Morris High School, and I cannot picture a school district or even one school without the sound of a band coming from that school. Music is essential to the betterment of students in school, and without it, we're taking away the heart and the soul of any school in its way of showing its pride in its community and in its way of its tradition. And like I said, the heart and the soul of Morris High School resides in people like the band members, in the football team, and we just can't do without that. It's essential. So I'd like to thank you for Sheila Jackson having us today, and we hope that you strongly consider how important music is in the lives of the students in our communities. Thank you.
Good going, guys.
Yes, as the band is departing, I just want to share that this is I think the junior varsity band, and this is their first year. And Morris has not had a band program in so long, we don't even have band uniforms.
That's right.
So those of you in the audience, you can stand up and we'll pass a hat around and so we can get some uniforms for our Morris High School band. Thank you very much for all your hard work, students.
Yes. Yeah, if I could take a few minutes. It's not only in San Diego Unified, but up and down the state, really wonderful programs like this are being threatened. The state of California is right now sort of deciding that you can't offer PE credit for band programs, and that doesn't sound like such a big thing, but Los Angeles Unified implemented this 2 years ago. It has cut their enrollment by 61.5%. High schools like Hollywood High School went from having 114 kids in their band to 14 this year. That's the entertainment capital of the world. And, Fairfax High School went from 192 to 65. They're seeing just dramatic drops in enrollment. So we're put this board in its leadership, 5 of us, we don't agree on everything, but we do agree on this one, and that is AB 351 is a bill we're putting through right now at the assembly level. We need as much support as possible, and if you want to go to www.ab351.org and express your feelings on this matter with the Assembly Committee on Education, it would be very helpful, but we can't take this for granted.
They're passing a hat. Thank you.
Are
You
they?
guys are
That's so
wonderful.
great.
You guys are wonderful. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, anyway, moving along as a hat means, please just don't take it out the hat. Leave it in the hat now. Okay. Superintendent, we're going to go to item C, and item C1 is the report of closed session actions and superintendent's information report. Could you do both C1 and 2, please?
Thank you, President Jackson. Tonight in closed session, the board by 5-0 vote approved the appointment of Torin Allen to Director of Applications and Dan Wolfson to our Online Learning Director. Also, this past week, the district hosted a report from Russ Rumberger, who is a professor at the University of California at Santa Barbara. Dr. Rumberger came and spoke to the community and staff about the impact of dropouts on the San Diego economy. Also would like to invite you this week to Lincoln High School, where we have a Nobel laureate, Mariano Melinda, presenting, and I think that's going to be an exciting opportunity. That's, I think, this Friday. And this Thursday evening, I would like to invite all of you again to come to Lincoln to the auditorium, where our board president, Sheila Jackson, will present a State of the District address to the community. This week, our staff has been working and today reported to the board on the original first-year plans that are going to be included in our Prop S projects. Our first bonds will be sold in April, and this first year we will sell $170 million in construction renovation bonds, followed by another sale of $120 million in the second year. And that completes my report, President Jackson.
Thank you very much. I will now ask that we adopt our agenda for this evening.
So moved.
You have a motion?
Second.
Second, please vote. That passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Next is the board consent agenda. I need a motion to excuse Board Member DeBeck from special meetings February 14th and 22nd.
Second.
Moved and second. Okay, please vote. Okay, that passes 4-0. The next item is the approval of the regular board meetings from January 13th, January 13th, February 10th, special meetings January 26th, 27th, February 10th, 14th, 17th, and 22nd.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please vote. Okay, good roll there. Next, we will have some items reserved for the board. We're in section F now, and we have the board member appointees for Proposition S, Proposition S, Independent Citizens Oversight Committee. We need a motion to approve the final 2 members, please.
So moved.
You've been motioned.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Okay, please vote. Thank you. We need to adopt the voluntary. Oh, I did. I'll come back. I'm very, very sorry. I'll be right back to those in just. I'll do it right now. F1 is board member informational reports. Mr. DeBeck, we'll start with you, and we'll come this way.
Well, like everyone else, I have been answering emails most of the week, and I have to apologize for some because they were easily categorized into certain groups, and so I sent a little boilerplate, but I spent a considerable amount of time answering every single email, which I try to do. Some of them said, hey, this looks like your just standard answer, and I did respond to that. So we have had an ongoing discussion about a lot of these things, and I'm sure that some of them know that there may be some changes going on. That's that.
All right, and Dr. Evans might want to talk about this as well. Dr. Evans and I made a trip up to Sacramento last week to try to do our best to really, I would say, begin the process that everybody here in this district needs to do to make a hard push that when the federal stimulus money comes from Washington into Sacramento, that money is allocated in a fair way to come back to San Diego. San Diego Unified took a disproportionate cut, and we've talked about this in the budget resolution. We got cut about 20% more than the average school district around the state because there was a big cut to our categorical programs that we use to do things like bus students in the district. The state government has a choice to make when it has the stimulus money come in to allocate that money in a way that can help restore those cuts to districts like San Diego Unified that got an unfair hit in the budget resolution. The difference for us would mean roughly if the state allocates it in what we consider the fair way, we'd get about $28 million back from just one categorical program. If the state allocates that money in a way that we consider not fair, we'd get about $6 million. That $22 million could have a big impact in the way that we address, these budget issues that we're all talking about. So what I would encourage everybody to do, we've got up on our website now, our sandy.net website, budget update. Everybody that's concerned and wants to raise your voice to the state to make sure that San Diego Unified gets its fair share of the federal stimulus money, please go to sandy.net budget update, and you'll see information there, and you'll see a way to contact our local legislators and a way to contact the governor's office to make sure that we get the money that we need to help restore some of these cuts that we're all talking about tonight. So please get involved. Please make your voice heard to the state.
Dr. Morrow?
Yeah, as they went up to Sacramento, we were also going to Washington, D.C. Ms. Jackson, Mr. DeBeck, our superintendent, and
we talked to all of our legislators about this issue of concern regarding, whether this money is actually going to get siphoned off by the state of California. We have been hearing some very disturbing ideas in that regard, that the state, particularly states headed by Republican governors, sadly, seem to think that it might be a good idea if they kept the money to fill their own budget problems. So I'd like to report, however, that many times we think our politicians fail us. The California delegation, at the federal level at any rate, immediately, I didn't know they could act that quickly, actually got together, wrote a letter, and as a delegation told, sent a letter to the governor saying, don't you dare, essentially, that this money is, the intent of this money is to go to the school districts. So I think it's important that they get that recognition because, frequently we don't think they do anything for us, but this was a good, strong voice for all of them. We also listened to the Secretary of Education, Arnie Duncan, who I understand is going to be here this next week for the National School Boards Association Conference. I encouraged him to come in and stop in San Diego. I think he's got a lot of ideas. It's very exciting to hear somebody talk with a moderate voice about, and a reasonable voice about how No Child Left Behind can be fixed, adjusted, changed, at the very least, that it's not working the way it is now. And I know our superintendent spoke with the secretary at some length. In fact, I was suggesting that he had, actually talk with him about coming to San Diego, and our superintendent immediately showed me his iPhone, which had a email already sent to the superintendent, to the Secretary of Education, so he was way ahead of the game. But he went with 30 other superintendents to speak to him personally. So it was a very, very successful meeting, and I want to call out our government relations office. I've been to Washington, D.C. on several occasions, and I have to say this was the most effective. It was the best visit that we have had yet, and I think it had a lot to do with the people we have organizing the trip. It was just very, very powerful. Getting back to, I just want to again say that with AB 351, which is the marching band, JROTC, drill team, and interscholastic athletics, the website's very simple. It's ab351.org. But school districts around the state are standing up in support of this. Los Angeles, Riverside, Long Beach, Sacramento, Fresno are standing up and saying, no, we really, these our marching band programs, these programs, JROTC, they're important. But you know what? It's really has touched me with the importance of standing up, because if this board had not, it wouldn't have happened. It really wouldn't have. So again, I want to thank my fellow board members for that. It is making a huge difference. Dr. Greer, do we have any idea? Did you hear back from Arnie Duncan, from Secretary Duncan?
Yeah, yes, I did. We talked to his scheduler. Unfortunately, many weeks ahead of time, he's flying in that morning. He's speaking at 11:30, and his flight out of here leaves at 1:40, which is going to be interesting to see whether he makes that connection. So he may be here to speak and not aware of that, but right now he is scheduled to go back. His schedule did say that he would try to make arrangements to come back and visit San Diego, and not only with our district, but also maybe have the opportunity to meet with the other superintendents and Dr. Ward from the other districts in the county.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's it. Thanks. Thank you.
Well, as you can hear from the other board members, we're all very concerned about what's going on with the budget in the state. We had the very difficult situation a couple of weeks ago where the state was, on the one hand, requiring us to present a balanced budget, and on the other hand, not giving us the money that we needed to balance our budget to provide education for our kids. What will be happening over the next couple of months or so is we're going to be looking at what sort of funds we're going to have and making final decisions about how we're going to align our budget. And a lot of people have been talking to me about what can we do at this particular point. And one thing people are doing certainly is coming to the school board and letting us know about the programs that are very important to you that you want to keep. But the real key to this, with what everyone else on the board has been saying, is that we need to be a united community in facing this crisis. And one of the ways, when we have some possibility of some mitigation of the cuts, and I'm not going to pretend that this is going to be any solution for all the huge millions and millions of dollars in cuts that we have, but something that can make a difference is the stimulus money. But it's not, as we went to Sacramento, it's not so guaranteed that that stimulus money is coming. One of the first things they said at the state was, well, you know, we've got even a bigger budget shortfall than we thought we had in the first place, so we're not so sure about passing out the money to the schools that's designated for the schools because the state may need to hold on to that money. The purpose of stimulus money is to get it out and to get it in circulation right away. So we need to, first of all, convince the state that they need to release the stimulus money right away. And as Mr. Brouwer pointed out, the other part is we need to make sure that when that stimulus money is distributed, that it's distributed fairly. When the cuts were made just recently, and we went over the fine print, it turned out that urban districts were hurt a lot harder than the other districts. We get a lot of funds that go towards the neediest students. Those were cut back even more. So we were disproportionately affected, and we're simply pressuring our legislators and our governor to make sure that when the stimulus money is distributed, that urban school districts are not penalized. And what they need to do is hear from real people about how this affects us, our athletic programs, our principals, our teachers, our music programs, our magnet programs, all up and down the line. They need to hear the story from real-life people. And you can write to your legislator, you can email them, you can call them on the phone. I would even encourage groups of people to call up your legislator and make an appointment with groups of parents to go and talk to them about how important this is. This is something that we can do in a united way together, the Board of Education, the superintendents, teachers, parents, everybody in the community who cares about education. I have a little form here that has a little bit of information. I'd just like to ask how many people who are in the audience today and people watching at home too, if you are willing to place at least one contact to our San Diego legislators through an email or a phone call or some other way, if you would please just raise your hand. Anybody that's willing to do that. Okay, we have 130,000 students. We need them to hear from at least 130,000 people, and that's really going to make a difference. I'm going to start passing these out to the audience, and if there are not enough, we can get some more made. Okay, so that's what we need to do. That is our work during the next couple of months, is to get the funds that we need so that we don't have to make all of these, that we can mitigate some of these cuts that we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and we have really shared a lot, and we really need to take on and save, I would call the word is actually save public education. But with that, I'm going to move on to item F03, and item F03 is the adoption of a voluntary recognition agreement with the Administrators Association of San Diego. I know Mr. Wong has been working over there helping me out with another project, but if there's anything he wants to say about this before we get a motion. Oh, that's it? Okay, we just need a motion to move this.
So moved.
So moved.
I second.
And moved and seconded. Any more board discussion or questions? Okay, please vote. Then now we move on to our G items. The first item,
I'm sorry.
okay, the first item up is item G01, proposal for adoption of textbooks and instructional materials for the 09-10 school year. Dr. Greer, please tee us up.
Thank you. This is pretty straightforward. This is something that we do each year. Kirk is here to answer any questions that the board might have about the adoption of the books. We have a process that the board has in place where we secure feedback and involvement from our staff, and parents have the opportunity to review these materials as well. So any questions you might have, I would invite Kirk up to answer, but we need approval and of the motion.
Okay, back, please.
First of all, I guess I got my mic on, okay. On 2/17, that's February 17th of this year, we voted as a board to deal with the budget crisis with flexibility in instructional materials, and we said we were saving $6.9 million. This item says that the instructional materials for the school year, this is 9 and 10, is $9.8 million. I'm confused by the two numbers, but I'm also confused about whether or not, if we vote for this, that we are then also nullifying the use of the flexibility that the state is providing for us for the instructional and materials expenditure, because that's one of our savings criteria, is it's a major amount of money. And so if we basically say yes to this 9.8, how can we save money on instructional materials and use it to balance our budget?
Okay.
Shall I respond?
Go ahead, and then I have questions for you.
Okay. The money that is asked for the instructional materials for this year is money that was rolled over and therefore is not subject to the Tier 3 flexibility. It can't be used for any other purpose. This is money that Denise Hankins had in the budget, and she's using that rollover funds for this year's adoption. As you'll note in the board documents, we did postpone several adoptions, a K-5 adoption, expansive K-5 adoption of mathematics, and a number of other materials. What we're seeking here today are, as you noted in your board documents, AP. We adopted every AP history title for our high schools, with the exception of AP statistics.
Okay.
Middle school math, some science, and math for high school.
Just a quick follow-up. Okay,
go ahead, Mr. DeBeck.
So let's say, okay, I'll say, okay, we can't spend it for anything else. It's stuck in this category, and it's rolled over from previous funds that we got for this purpose. So it's categorical dollars. All right, now then, let's say that we seem to have agreed that we're not going to spend any money on instructional materials next year because of the flexibility. So then the question is, how do we know that this priority is the kind of priority we would give it, say, 6 months from now, when we're talking about things we're going to forego next year? In other words, we're saying, okay, spend the money, we already got approval, but next year we're not going to do this. So then the question would be, next year, will we regret that we adopted these courses and didn't substitute something else that's a higher priority for next year? How do we know that?
Mr. DeBeck, you'll know that, was it 2 weeks ago that the board approved our waiver request for the State Board of Education to grant us further flexibility for the K-5 math adoption and the subsequent English language arts adoption. So your question poses a scenario for next year when we go to examine textbooks for consideration for adoption. We'll work, obviously, with direction from my boss, Dr. Morris, and from the school board as to how we proceed. Dr. Greer mentioned in the board meeting about 2 weeks ago that if we go forward with adoptions next year, with the money that will be sent to us next year, if we don't provide the Tier 3 flexibility and use it for something else, then we will have money to adopt certain titles. But we feel very confident that the money we're spending this year is money that can't be used for any other purpose, and it's for materials that we need for our students right now. But the superintendent did bring forward at the last meeting the notion that if we go forward every year and start spending the Tier 3 money in the flexibility proposal, we will be falling farther and farther behind in our textbook adoption.
Okay, I hear your answer, but my statement would be, that means that if we voted no today and it didn't happen, you still have the money to spend on the categories, should we look at the priorities in the coming months, right?
These instructional material funds would roll over, yes. They can't be used for any other purposes.
That's all I wanted to know.
Okay.
Denise, you need to let me know if there's anything wrong.
Well, okay, because I always have concerns, and certainly I know that you delivered these to our office yesterday or the day before. These binders, and board members who haven't seen them, your boxes are right back there to review for this particular meeting. And I always ask who's on the committees and what schools they come from, so that we can ensure that we have representation from across the district. My first concern right now, what Mr. DeBeck said, is that, our concern for us, this is $9 million. We're saying right now that we're in a severe economic crisis. We're not spending any money. The most we should be doing is replacing books. And I think that we want to replace them so that we don't get behind, but certainly to start adopting whole new sets in a time of crisis, it may not be the best thing for us to do. But then aside from that, let me go through my usual annual concerns. And I'm thankful you that this year you put the list in front of here, so that at least we can see it now. I didn't get a whole list of names and then that stuff, but what I see in many of these is the same people. Okay, it's the same people looking at various types of books, and I just pulled the ones from mathematics. And so it would concern me that the people, when we start looking at books for students that really need to excel in a certain part of mathematics, then you need to have the flexibility or include more people from those areas that are going to be using the books. Because what happens is it becomes a top-down driven. We tell them this is the book that you're going to use versus them having input. So I asked the administrators, some of the administrators, how much input did they have? They had very little input. The goal, and I can't speak for the whole board, but I can speak for this board member, our goal has been to involve as many people as possible in providing resources to our students. The days when just a few handful of people came together and said, oh, this is the best one, that doesn't work for this board member. What works for me is knowing that when I call one of these people on this list, and they've been at that school for a period of time. What works for me is when I meet an administrator and say, okay, what do you think about this adoption? They said, oh yes, I know about it. When I ask administrators and they don't know about the adoption, I have a problem. Because that means that somehow they were not included in this process. Now, I don't know who said what, but what I do know is that when I'm out there asking, and I only had yesterday and today to ask, administrators were saying they didn't have much information about this. And so certainly, and for the board members, I would say for those who didn't get a chance to see this hefty box back here and what's in it, you need to look and see what's in it, because sometimes, especially right now, when we are adopting things, we need to know who is on the committee, what schools they represent, if they're representing a large diversity of our district is very large, and if it's going to be able to move the district. And we said this about the science last year, is that if we keep picking the same old science materials, our science scores aren't going up. That doesn't make sense. What I don't know is this a change from, and this is just math, I haven't read the other ones, is this, and the board needs to know, are these the same materials we've been using? Because if our math scores are flat, and then we're adopting the same materials, guess what? It doesn't work for the board. But there's nothing in here that tells the board members that. So then what happened is we vote for something, and then we're wondering why things aren't getting any better. Okay, and they aren't getting better because we don't have full disclosure as to what we're doing. I'm sorry, board members, I'll be quiet. Dr. Evans, Mr. Barrera.
Thank you. I want to pursue this issue, and I know this isn't entirely related to you, but the issue of the $90 million for textbooks. I mean, we've seen, our schools are really hurting in terms of the cuts. We're looking at really, really painful cuts next year, and that's why at this particular point we need to look really carefully at these $9 million. Now, I understand that you say these are funds that rollover funds that were already there that don't apply the flexibility. At this point, I think we should be asking the state for everything we can, and I'd like to ask the superintendent in terms of what is the possibility of telling the state we are in an emergency situation, we need a waiver on this particular categorical in our choices, closing schools or buying some new books, and we can get by with a lot less than $9 million of new books. I mean, how aggressive can we be about that?
We can be as aggressive as we want. We've been very aggressive already. We've met with members of the Assembly. We have clearly communicated our financial crisis. The problem is that we have been given zero flexibility in our discretionary money to purchase textbooks. This is money that's coming to us from the lottery. Now, the dollars these folks are talking about are carryover dollars, rollover dollars from last year. Their real concern that the staff has is they have delayed purchase of books everywhere that they and others believe that we can. The issue here is that we do have textbooks adoptions in this district that are already 7 years old and are older. And the real concern we have about delaying those purchases is if you miss the cycle, it'll be 14 years before you purchase more books, and you can say, well, no, we can just purchase them next year. Well, if you do, then you miss a cycle from another group of books. The point that I kind of want to make with books is I hope we can get to the point in our school district and in our country where our textbooks are on disc and kids have laptops, and we don't have to lug around 70 pounds of books in book bags from school to school. The point is we aren't quite there yet. We're making progress, but we aren't quite there in terms of having the infrastructure from a technology standpoint in our schools to deliver the technology if we had it. So that's one of the dilemmas that we have. We don't have to spend this $9 million. And we can just simply say we aren't going to. We're going to take this money and do something else with it, and our staff will make do with what we have. We, again, think if the staff feels pretty strongly that if we go that direction, that we would be making a mistake. Am I accurate in what I'm saying?
You are. And note that the bulk of this purchase is middle school mathematics. It directly pertains to algebra for 8th graders and No Child Left Behind. The books that we have are outdated. They don't have the technology that the new series has. This new series is more articulated, and in fact, the students in both regular algebra and advanced algebra would be using the same book. Teachers now have 2 or 3 or 4 preps around the same math topics because we have a series of titles. This helps clean that up. And I have 2 individuals here who would love to speak to the issue about the committee formation and the representation on the committee if you'd like to hear from them.
Quickly.
Yeah.
Ms. Jackson, I heard you loud and clear last year when you said you wanted to make sure that teachers were represented from across the district, and we made sure that happened. We had a process in place where every high school cluster was represented on the committee, and we ensured that principals were part of the process, that they had to approve the teachers who requested to be on the committee because we needed to make sure it was okay with them, the principals, that teachers were going to be missing some hours of instructional time. And we did have a vice principal on the committee, so we actually had an administrator on the committee. Curriculum staff did not participate in thoroughly analyzing materials with rubrics. That was all done by teachers, and we've got representatives from the committees here, if you'd like to hear from them.
Could they please stand? I just
Stephen
wanna see them.
Santana.
I had them stand last year, too. I had to see the committee, if they're here.
So we've got representatives from the middle level committee and the high school committee.
Thank you. Are you done, Dr. Evans?
Well, I mean, just in responding to Dr. Greer, I mean, I understand that might put us 7 years or 14 years, but I certainly think in that number of years we're not going to be using textbooks as we now know them. And I guess the other issue is there may need to be some text bought, but I just, in terms of maximum flexibility, I'm not so sure about doing this right away because we may be able to go to the state and say, we've got this $9 million here, let us spend, just for example, $3 million on text and $6 million to meet our emergency needs. I just don't want to give up those options when we're in the middle of making all these decisions.
Indeed, Dr. Evans, the legislation specifically called out these funds as not being used for the flexibility. These are funds that were specifically called.
I understand, and I'm not content just to take what the state's telling us at this point, because they're not being reasonable with us. I don't want to be that reasonable with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Dr. Evans. I mean, I appreciate the work that the staff is doing, and I appreciate the work that the committee has done. I do. But this is craziness in my mind. To spend $10 million on textbooks when we're cutting $10 million, that would mean Jose and his brother can't get to the school that they need to get to. I just can't do it, and the reason I can't do it is, you know, I again appreciate what Dr. Greer is saying, but I don't think the issue is that the infrastructure is not there. I think the issue is, I think the infrastructure is in place to move to getting kids laptops or other portable devices and getting our curriculum online. That's the 21st century. And the idea that we've got to spend $10 million right now on textbooks that are gonna be outdated, that will be outdated almost as soon as we purchase them, when we could be getting our curriculum online, is it's the equivalent of, I don't know, 15 years ago investing $10 million in typewriters, when we know that that's not where we need to go. And I don't think the issue is that we don't have the infrastructure or that the technology is not in place. I think the issue is textbook publishers are getting their voice heard in Sacramento, and that's why we've got restrictions on not being able to spend this money on things that are more important. And if we've got $10 million that will roll over, and I appreciate where you're coming from, I do, but I'm not going to spend that $10 million on typewriters tonight. I would rather that we let that money roll over, because I think it's a matter of time before those restrictions start to get loosened up at the state level, because everybody knows that there's a better way to get instructional materials to students than to continue to purchase big, heavy books because the textbook publishers want us to spend $10 million. So I'm not going to do it.
Ms. Nakamura?
Yeah. I agree that these times don't make any sense at all. It's, the choices that we are being required to make. I agree. I think it's the publishing companies have protected their interests up in Sacramento better than parents and teachers have protected our interests in our children's education down here. And it is really a crying shame. I'm not sure that we are, quite ready to get Kindles into the hands of every student just yet. I'm also not sure that, that publishers are so unaware of the concept of supply and demand that once they do go to CDs, they won't just simply rack up the price of whatever it is that we're buying, because that's what they do, even if it's on CD. I know that we do have some biology books in the district that are on CD, and I don't know what they sell for. Dr. Anke, you seem to...
Yeah. I really appreciate the comments, and I know we're taking too long with this, but Mr. Barrera, you get back to a really important memory of mine. When at a junior high school in this district, we actually bought new typewriters in a heartfelt gesture for a typing teacher who then retired the next year and was replaced by a computer lab. So I understand that lesson. But the fact of the matter is every book we're talking about here comes on disc. The children will have the opportunity to use these books in online or on disc or both. The world language books are not online. The special education books are not on disc. But everything we're talking about, the big adoptions here, the publishers are providing for you the disc version of the book and an online version of the book. These are the new generation of textbooks for our students for math and science at the middle school and high school level. This is the adoption year. This is the material that has been selected by the state for the K-8 adoptions and by our local district committees. This is the best that we're going to have for the next 8 years.
Yeah, and I'd like to...
And in all due respect, sir, this textbook money cannot use to fund the buses.
Yeah, and that was another point that I want to make. While I'm agreeing with all of this, I am very concerned that, I don't want to bet that, that Sacramento will roll over on this and say, oh no, we changed our mind, you can now spend that money. And then lose this adoption, particularly since these is in algebra and it's in mathematics and it's areas that we're trying to move forward. If we could spend the money on a bus to get, Jose to school for, for the magnet school. You asked to be the poster child, Jose. I'm just asking you this. Okay, so you're the poster child tonight, all right? So, this is what happens when you speak up. So it is, but but if we could, if we could use it for buses, I would, but I'm not really sure that we're going to. And I guess my own personal memory on this, since we're all going down memory lane, is, my mother went out on strike in Los Angeles Unified back in 1989. And part of it was based on the antiquity of the textbooks that they had. We can eventually, this is exactly the time, this is the moment when those decisions are made and backing off on what our teachers need in the classroom when these decisions, I noticed this list seems to be pared down from the last time we saw it considerably. I noticed the Japanese textbook didn't make the cut, so I want to talk to you about that later. But there does seem to be, I mean, I think they have reduced it. I think they have, narrowed it down from the flexibility. But I don't know that you've got the votes up here for this. On the other hand, I think that we ought to go ahead with it. Dr. Greer, did you?
Again, these dollars, as much as you would like it, as much as I would like, I'm just to tell you, you can delay this, you can make a public statement tonight. With all due respect, you will not be allowed to spend these dollars for anything but textbooks. As Kirk has pointed out, which quite frankly I didn't know, that there is the computer disc on these books. That sounds high to me, to be frank with you.
Yeah.
But it is, again, what it is. This is a process that has been chosen by our state. We can protest it by not voting to do this tonight or not doing it at all. Next year, we are having 8th grade students that we're responsible for teaching that are going to be working with algebra books that are 8 years old, and you're going to have teachers that don't have access to the disc and the other multimedia opportunities that these children will have to learn. This is a very tough call, I understand politically, and it is your call, and whatever you decide to do, we of course will support.
Question?
I'm gonna.
Okay, whatever.
I'm gonna speak, and then I'm gonna be brief, or Richard's gonna kick me if I'm not brief here. We spend a lot of time talking about the 21st classroom, 21st century classroom. And we know that we are changing this district to a 21st century classroom. While I appreciate what you're saying about the state and how these funds are to be spent, I go back to one of the points I made earlier. It may have to be spent on textbooks, but can it be updating textbooks, refurbishing things so that we can get more bang for our buck? Because what we do know is that as we go through this transitional period, now I am 100% going to go talk to Sacramento folks about allowing us to get a waiver for this money. But in the event that that does not happen, then what I'm looking at is how do we make the best use of this $9 million for textbooks? Because I am pretty sure even later tonight we're voting on millions of dollars for technology. So we can't continue to do both, vote for technology and say we're going to stay in the old world. So don't think that this. Maybe we won't do this tonight because I can't support this. Not a motion on the floor anyway for us right now. But the bottom line is that don't think because the state has said something that right now this board is going to roll over and do it. And don't think that if they come back and say that we can, we're going to say, okay, based upon what you give us, we're just going to do what's right here in front of us. Because we know that we have options, and we know that there's other things that we need as far as textbooks in this district. Mr. DeBeck, Mr. Barrera. Mr. Barrera first, Mr. DeBeck. You was first. I'm sorry.
So I guess the question, Kirk, is, are we buying books that have a disc along with them, or are we just buying discs?
We're buying the hardcover textbooks.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, if they were selling as discs, then I'd be open to making that purchase.
They'll sell us the disc for the same price as the textbook.
That's right.
We want to negotiate that.
Yeah, I'd say.
10 cents
No,
for the
they're
disc.
selling not.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not selling.
I think I don't want the books. Is the point. The discs, is something that, would be worth going back, to the table and negotiating. To me, the idea that it's like, again, go back 15 years ago and the typewriter company is saying, you got to buy the typewriter, but along with the typewriter, we'll give you a floppy disk, that you could use in your computer. I don't want the typewriter. And what I'm worried about is, I've got a 15-year-old son who's a tech whiz, and he's always looking about sort of what's the next big thing to buy. But he's always focused on if you buy something now, you're making a mistake because 6 months from now, a year from now, it's going to be a lot cheaper. And my feeling is the risk that we're taking is we're spending $10 million now that a year from now we might be able to use for something different. It's possible that we could keep pushing, not just ourselves, but I think this is a movement that's starting to happen around the country and in the state to move for more flexibility, to bring the voice of people who want to get into the 21st century to compete with the voice of the textbook publishers in Sacramento. I think we can make progress there. I think it's a matter of time, frankly. Don't know how much time it's going to take, but there will be the time that comes that districts are not mandated to buy the typewriters anymore. And I don't want to spend $10 million now when I think that time is coming. So, and that's about flexibility, but it's also about being able to go back and negotiate to purchase, to spend our money on instructional material, you know, to basically buy the discs or buy the instructional material that we need, you know, that's worth an investment right now. I don't see spending $10 million on hardcover books as an investment. So that's where I'm coming from. I think the risk is too great tonight to spend $10 million on something that's outdated because the people who want to protect it continue to protect it.
Beck and then Mr.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there. For me, the real issue is this. I'd be happy, I'd be thrilled if all the kids in our school system could master the obsolete books we now hold in algebra. I don't think algebra has changed all that much in my lifetime. Okay? Now, if there's something magical about the new adoption that makes it, assures that these kids are going to master algebra, they're not going to master it because it's on a CD. They're not going to master it because it's in a hardcover book. They're going to master it because we've learned a new way to teach algebra. Okay? And I'm not going to go, I already voted, it's no. Okay? And I'm not going to go into a situation where you can tell me that you're going to spend this $9 million definitely on algebra. That's fine with me, but not on this algebra adoption. It's going to be something maybe 6-8 months from now that's better. And it will be better, and it'll probably be cheaper because nobody's going to sell me this stuff at list price when I know there's a discount coming sooner or later. You know what? If we don't buy it, the price is going to drop. A statewide watch. If these people are in the next few years, they're all going to be buying algebra books on somebody's adoption, and they got flexibility, they're not going to be buying them. So the publisher is going to have a whole stack of these algebra books all waiting for somebody to buy. If they're not bought, you bet the price is going to drop. And I'm going to bet on that, and on top of that, I think this is a waste of money for what I consider even the current adoptions are probably obsolete, because algebra hasn't changed that much. You know, what do they do? Change one radical somewhere? Or one page of the book got a new reprint and the author gets a whole new commission on his royalties? I can go back to my algebra book in 1940, and I can find the same problems that are in the current adoptions. And the kids are having the same problem I had. So I don't think it's all that urgent, frankly. I think that we should say, wait a minute, hold off. You know what? We got $9 million. We'll sit in this, I'll call it textbook reserve, but I'll bet you better priorities will come up next year than even an algebra book. Okay. And I will have it to spend. Maybe it'll be technology. Maybe it'll be some 21st century book that somebody needs for teaching calculus. So be it. But you know what? This doesn't say it has to be a textbook, and it doesn't say it has to be a CD. It could be an online course. It could be any kind of thing, and I'm not going to spend it on the state adoption just because the state adopted it, because I don't always agree with them anyway. So it's, as far as I'm concerned, no.
It's Nakamura.
Okay.
We'll get to it.
We have a radical group up here. But there's another radical group called the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, and they have a piece of legislation called the Williams Act which goes to sufficiency of materials.
Exactly.
And they really want to make sure that kids have their hands on books, and I think they particularly want them in books on basic core subjects like English language, chemistry, history, and algebra. And we have a whiz-bang general counsel over here who, if you just push a button, can show, quote, chapter and verse on the Williams Act. If we don't adopt this tonight, what position does this put us in before we jump off this cliff? Any problem at all?
Thanks for putting me on the spot.
Well, you know, you're good, so.
The Williams Act mandates findings that annually, which actually existed before Williams, for that students have sufficient textbooks and instructional materials that are based on state-adopted guidelines. And so the ultimate question is, if you don't purchase new books, is whether your existing textbooks and instructional materials meet those requirements.
Will be sufficient.
Will be sufficient.
Do we have any idea?
Hi, Denise Hankins, Instructional Materials. For the K-8 adoption, we did apply for the waiver, and the governor did allow in his budget proposal the extension of the 24-month rule. So we do have time for the K-8. We do have another year for the K-8. There were instructional reasons why we decided to move forward with the 6-8.
What's the instructional reasons? There are reasons,
Those were
like
the reasons.
students
I
learning
think
something?
probably Kim Hall can address that issue better about, you know, improving student success in the algebra courses in 6-8.
Are there particular books? We can pick and choose off this. We don't have to do the entire adoption, right? As someone who got a D in algebra, I'm particularly interested in this topic.
And Williams, thank you for bringing it up, is an important part, because many of these books are 8 years old, and the content may not have changed, but the books are no longer available, and our contracts with the publishers are expiring, so they're under no obligation to provide them to us. So it will add an additional challenge to schools as they try to meet that definition of sufficiency next year. And one other item while I have the floor, the K-2 math consumables are part of last year of the previous math adoption, the Harcourt math adoption. Those have to be provided every year. So I would please ask you to look at approving that section at least and the AP support, because we're going to need to provide those consumable workbooks to students in K-2.
Okay, I would recommend that the items that we really have to have, the consumables, like the K-2 that we use every year,
yes,
those items should be separated out of the items that you're just bringing forward.
All right.
Because and I can't speak for the entire board, but again, you can hear our concerns, and so certainly we do want to maintain levels of books, and we do know that some books are consumables, and the ones that are consumables are the ones that we actually have to have, then I think that should come back at a later date. There is not a motion on the floor for this particular item.
I make a motion that we approve the consumables, but also, Ms. Hall, I'd like to
I think she needs
hear.
to bring them forth, because what I don't want us to do is to start approving part of something and not have the entire piece. And so my concern is, I want to make sure that come back. There's no rush tonight. We have another meeting in a couple of weeks. Come back with a list of items that we just cannot do without. And publishers are having their own problems right now. We're not gonna, I can't help them. That's their problem. We have a problem here, and our needs is the school district. But having said that, there's not a motion on the floor. Superintendent, I recommend that you bring this back with what we absolutely need, and that's all. And in the meantime, we'll work around other items. Okay? I want to go ahead and move.
So we move to table it?
We can table it. Okay.
By consensus, we could do it.
Okay. Or he can pull it, whichever he prefers. The next item is item GO2. And item GO2 is our annual public hearing and approval of the 2008-9 annual service and budget plans for our local plan for special education. Dr. Greer.
Thank you again. This is pretty much self-explanatory, and we have staff members that are here that will answer any questions that board members might have. We need a board to approve this.
Okay. And Jess says he's coming down to talk about it.
Arun's here, and I'm not sure who else he has with him.
Hold it. How can it have no dollar amount?
I was going to say that, John, but what I did is I went back to the page in the book, and so staff again, and thank you, Mr. DeBag. Under this thing for the 08-09 annual budget plans, and on our front page it says dollar amount. When you add up all of the money that you have there on that one page, I forgot what page number it is, it's something like $291,448,367.
Yeah.
And that should be on the front. But my question after that and I think that just for board information, how much of this is what we receive from our state and our federal government, and then how much is encroached, just so we know those numbers?
I took that request and have actually made that request a budget today, so they'll be getting back with that information, and I'll provide that to all of you board members.
Well, what bothers me is you certify a budget plan, and you say it doesn't cost us anything. I mean, I'm sorry, but you know what? You heard us just talk. We're talking about a crisis situation, and this is a blank check. What's going on?
This is the plan that was completed at the end of the last school years for the 08-09 school year, and this is the plan that we're operating on for this current year.
So you're saying that there's no new money? This is all old money?
No expenditures at all.
Well, they sure look like it here. I got $109 million on the first line and $80 million on about the line D. So
291 of them.
Yeah.
291 million and change.
And what that doesn't consider are the cuts that were made by the Special Education Department from the beginning of the year to now.
So basically, Jeff, what you're saying is this is money that's being spent this year. You're not asking for new money. These are money that were budgeted last year. This is this year's budget minus cuts that you made mid-year. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Well, may I?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm looking at this, and it says, the annual budget plan was presented for public hearing on March 24th, 2009. I think that's today.
It is.
Okay, now, that was the plan for the year we're already through? When did we do the, I don't understand. Are we approving things retroactively for special ed all the time? Or is it, this March 24th is more than a half a year gone, and we're approving a budget that was presented for this same year that's half a year gone? Now, I don't quite understand that. I mean, if it has to be, it has to be, but I don't see how I can understand it unless I got a budget plan for this year with it in it long ago.
Yeah, this is a requirement from the state of California. It's actually due, both packets in your document, by March 31st. You have an annual service plan and an annual budget plan. And the 31st of March is the drop dead date and when that's due.
So next March we're going to do 2010? Why?
So the question that maybe, okay, this is required by the state now, and it's late in the year. But I think maybe what Mr. DeBeck, and certainly I had the same question, I added the money up before you came up. But maybe what would help us is knowing that you have to do this plan, and knowing our economic status, that you start looking at your plan for next year, and don't wait until it's due to turn it in, because the question that, brings to mind is that we're halfway done with the year. You done did all this stuff. You had to have planned this stuff last year. You had somebody somewhere had to decide what we were going to do from September to March. So then the question is someone planning right now for the 09-10 school year?
Yes, ma'am. We are in fact doing that. This is actually just an administrative requirement through the state of California. You would be passing basically both the current budget for this year and the service codes, which are the types of services that we're delivering in each of the schools for students with disabilities. So it's an administrative requirement under the state of California.
Okay, but it says a public hearing. Now, when you have a budget hearing, you have a public hearing in advance of a budget approval. A reason for a public hearing is so it's sunshine, so the public knows what's going on. And you're saying that we're going to let them know what's going on after we've done almost two-thirds of it. Because two-thirds of the year is gone, and now we're sunshining what we did. I really have a hard time with this. Okay, now, if you had on the agenda ratification of the existing budget, that would be an honest statement. That would be saying, okay, we got a budget, we're ratifying it, we're reporting it to the state because that's what we're doing. Because after the fact, we've already agreed that we said that we're going to do it. Now it's too late to change our mind. But this says public hearing and approval. So that means people out there should have been able to come and say, hey, we don't know about this, or yeah, I wonder about special ed. What's going on? I didn't hear anybody sign up for it, just you guys. So it's not really a public hearing, it's I'll call it a staff report.
Well, it's a report, and the information was shared to the public about 15 days ago. It went out via email and through a number of other sources. So anyone who had comments or input to provide could do so tonight.
Mr. Barrera.
Okay.
Can I just ask, I think it's a question as you're preparing the 9-10 plan. When Dr. Evans and I were in Sacramento at a meeting with the staff for the Senate Budget Committee, a question came up that I had never heard, and I'm sure that people up here are probably familiar with it, but when we talk about the encroachment on our general fund for special ed, so it's $80 million, or next year I think we've been talking about more than $80 million as encroachment, the Senate Budget Committee staffer brought up a point which was, well, does that $80 million include the cost of that student if that student was not receiving any special ed services? So in other words, if this was a student not receiving special ed services, the district would be paying for that student anyway. So is it $80 million, or is it really much less than $80 million that we're claiming is an encroachment on special ed? Her point was the money that comes in categorical programs to provide special ed services probably just about covers the cost of for special ed kids, given that you're already funding the student. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Actually, that's a continuous discussion that folks have about special education funding.
Yeah.
Basically, the monies that we receive from the state and federal government are supposed to cover the excess cost of supporting the education of a student with disabilities.
Yes.
So we have to sort of parse that out in terms of, and there's a lot of disagreement in terms of, okay, well, what's the average cost of a student, and then what's the amount of money that's provided by the state, and then what's the amount of money provided by the federal government.
Right.
And folks have different opinions on that.
Yeah. Okay.
So
well, it might be worth more of a discussion because my gut it would tell me it's fair to talk about encroachment if the encroachment is actually covering the cost of the services to the special ed student, not talking about encroachment as a cost, as just sort of the base cost, for the student.
Yes, sir. And actually, the term encroachment is only used in the state of California. A lot of folks take a look at it as the monies that are provided to provide extra services for students with disabilities because they have a disability.
Right.
Again, there's a lot of debate back and forth among school finance experts on this issue.
Okay.
Anyone else having comment? This is a required document that is needed by the state. We do need a motion, we have a motion, a second. Okay, any more discussion or questions? I have just one brief one on page 2. On page 2 of your actual report that says the annual, this is your physical report, and it's not, yes, page 2 with what funding is. And maybe I'm reading the first one wrong and I added it in and I shouldn't. The A says funds received in accordance with chapter 7.2. So that is monies received. And then B, C, and D. So B through E, that is what your expenditures are. Was I reading this incorrectly? I thought these were all expenditures because it said expect expenditures. But then I see that A says funds received.
That's correct. The funds received are in column A.
Okay.
And the cost of the plan itself, you can find from B on down.
Okay, so then if I go back and I was saying that the cost of this was 291 million, it's really only about 100 so. Is that then correct? Because would I subtract that out of the whole, would I just take this top line off the rest of these? Is that correct? Am I looking at this the wrong way?
Could you repeat that question?
Exhibit here.
Okay, it's not your exhibit, I'm sorry. There it is right there. So I guess my question is, I added all these numbers up because the top of this says expected expenditures for the items to get my 291 million. But I just added the number, I didn't look at the reference labels over here. The reference label said that A is actually funds received. So that's not part of your expenditures then. I don't understand how that could be part of your expenditures if you're receiving funds.
This isn't even the exhibit.
Does that make, am I asking it?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, we're
Incorrectly
basically
something?
reporting this out the way that the state has required us to report this out. So, and on another point,
So I guess my question is, how much does this cost us? So rather than saying 291 million, it would be 109 million short, less than that.
Right.
Okay.
So roughly 300 million minus the 109.
Okay.
and, you know, we can bring this forward earlier next year for the 2009-2010 budget and do the public, I'm sorry, for next year's budget, and we will
Maybe in
do
June?
that.
Maybe in June or July?
Yes, sir, we can do it then.
Thank you.
Dr. Evans?
So just following with what Mr. DeBeck said, we're basically, sounds to me like we're willing to approve a submission of this budget information to the state, as opposed to we're having a public hearing on approving the budget because this budget is already in motion.
Correct.
Just to clarify that, it makes it easier to approve it.
No more comments, please vote. That passes 4-1. Thank you very much, staff, for your time. The next item is item H, which is district operation monitoring. The first one is the student enrollment forecast for October 2nd, 2009. Dr. Greer.
Thank you, President Jackson. Our demographer, Roy McPhail, is projecting a small growth, about 0.5% of students next year. Roy is projecting that our student population on October the 2nd, 2009 will grow by 611 students to 133,309 students. That will include students both enrolled in district-run and charter schools. As the planning process continues through the spring, Roy may make some changes in this to reflect up-to-date information about issues that will affect enrollment at specific schools, which include possible program changes, charter schools opening or closing, grade reconfigurations, retentions, promotions, those kinds of things. So again, this is just an informational report that we try to give to you each year. Because we do use these projections, as you know, in making allocations out to the schools. Now, I've never worked in a school district, and I've worked in a lot, where principals ever agree with these projections. They always think they're too low at their school. Sometimes they are. Most of the time, they are reasonable. What we want you to know is even though we may make preliminary allocations to schools, we do make adjustments in our funding formulas and funding allocations after the first 5 to 10 days of the school year. So I wanted to let you know that. Okay? Any questions, we'll be glad to try to answer them. But again, this is information only.
Any questions or comments? Ms. Nakamura, do you have a question?
No, I just want to compliment the staff on the report this year. For the first time I've ever seen, it includes private school enrollment in the San Diego Unified School District boundary, which is something I've been asking for several years. And the report, the breakdown, and it's going down, it is going down, but well, I think we're going to see more, actually, families. Well, first of all, if we do a good job and provide good services, I think we can increase our market share, so to speak, by increasing our enrollment, because families are hard-pressed while they're searching for good educational opportunities for their kids. If we do our job, we can be that educational opportunity, and in case anybody hasn't heard out here, what we offer is free. So it's a good bargain, in my opinion, if you can find the right school within San Diego City Schools. But I really sincerely, I just want to thank the staff. This is the most complete, I think, report we've had on enrollment. Mr. McPhail always does a very good job. He's one of my favorites, but he's done a great job this year.
I also want to
Any more
quickly,
comments,
President
Dawn?
Jackson, let you know that later this week that I am meeting along with Mr. McPhail with a firm, California firm that does demographic studies and recommends boundary changes for boards, and we've not had that done in this district for a long time in terms of how we adjust lines to make better use of our schools.
School boundaries, you mean?
Yeah, I think the last time we perhaps...
But we did that.
Yeah, I think but the last time that we perhaps looked at doing this was when we had, and it wasn't really, it was a little tweaking of the boundaries, but it was when we were rebuilding Lincoln and we moved students, and you may recall we expanded San Diego High School's attendance zone and Morse's attendance zone. And so we're going to at least listen to what they have to say, and perhaps if reasonable, bring a proposal back to you to see about doing some of that kind of work.
We did that on Prop M building, too. When we built new schools, we reboundaried the schools in the surrounding area in order to balance the enrollment in the new school that we built. So the last redistricting of brand-new lines was Prop M construction related.
Dr. Evans was next. Thank you.
Yeah, just related to the enrollment, I know there's a lot of recruiting that the district does in terms of attracting people to magnets and other programs. What is being done in terms of specifically with preschool children? I mean, 3- and 4-year-olds in terms of really introducing them to the public schools and so that they are ready to sign up at kindergarten. That seems like that's a much easier sell than trying to convert people who are going elsewhere. And I don't know how extensive that is.
Well, basically, we have partnerships with preschool programs now, and we have preschool programs everywhere we can afford them.
With public preschool programs.
Right. And
but I would imagine a large number of children go to private preschools, and most of them are potential public school students.
And I'm not aware of any program that we have in the district right now that is a outreach program to private preschool programs. It's not something that we couldn't develop. I think it's a good idea. The issue of how to do it and how to pay for it, I think, always comes into mind.
Right.
I think a big part of it, quite frankly, in the past has had more to do with how well our magnet schools have recruited, and that's where a lot of that has come from.
But in terms
we can
of...
look into it, can't we?
Of course we can.
Right, because again, with the whole budget issue, if there's the potential of increased ADA by a larger kindergarten class, we could look at maybe another $1 million if we spend a few dollars to reach out to all those preschools.
We'll look into it. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, just building on that, I think a good example in our district is what's been happening at McKinley Elementary for the past several years. The principal and parents actually at McKinley have a very active effort to reach out to preschools in the area to recruit them to come to McKinley as opposed to enrolling students in private schools. And it's been part of it has been building up the IB program at McKinley, but it's very much a focus on attracting families into the public schools before they go to private schools.
Okay. Before we go to the next item, which is that was information item, but item HO2, before we go there, as the band left, I just kind of said, pass the hat around, help the band out, and someone started passing a hat around, and they collected
How much did we get?
$251 for the Morris Band. Okay, that's 2 uniforms, but we'll keep working, Dr. Greer. Bit by bit. Inch by inch, anything's a cinch.
It's a drum major and the trombone player.
Oh, okay. That's right. All right. Item HO2 is the final offers for the allocation of facilities for charter schools under Prop 39.
Approval.
Okay,
Second.
we have an approval and a second. We have one public speaker, Lisa Berlanga.
Good evening. Thank you, President Jackson, board members, Dr. Greer. First, I want to say I'm glad I'm not you. You are in such a difficult position, board members and the superintendent alike. You're between a rock and a hard place, and I'm glad I'm not you. Lisa Berlanga, California Charter Schools Association. I wanted to speak just a minute about the Prop 39 final offers. About a month or so ago, I was here, and we were thrilled to hear board members speaking in favor of expanding Prop 39 a little bit, allowing schools year-round access to their sites. We were thrilled that the superintendent brought up the idea of multi-year Prop 39 agreements. Very exciting ideas for us that helps us to get facilities and have the facilities meet our needs and be flexible. So I wanted to say, first of all, thank you, and thank you to Roy McPhail and his staff for coming up with these offers this year. The process gets better every year. There's more negotiation between charter schools and staff. Offers are getting better. I also saw in the offers that we are opening up sites. The new offers include that. Multi-year agreements, we're not there yet. So I just wanted to say that I hope you will continue to push your staff to be innovative and to think outside the box in terms of Prop 39 so that the facility needs of charter schools can really be met. Because there's nothing in Prop 39 that prohibits multi-year agreements. It's different. It's something that hasn't been done before in San Diego Unified. It has been done in other districts. It can be done. But it does require work. It requires looking at things differently. It requires innovation. And I know this board is innovative. I know the superintendent is innovative. And I hope that you'll encourage your staff to be as innovative as you are and to create these ideas. I also, while I'm up here, want to say the same about Prop S. I was at a CCDC meeting not too long ago, and they were talking about the $150 discretionary for charter schools, both in district facilities and out of district facilities. That was part of the Prop 39 that was passed. And there was some talk of that may not be able to happen because it's too complicated. So again, I know that was the intention of Prop S. I know that was the intention of the board, certainly the intention of the community panels that I sat on. So I hope, again, that you can encourage your staff to be creative, think outside the box, and be innovative. And then again, thank you for all the work on Prop 39.
Thank you. Board members, any more comments or discussions? If not, please vote. It was a motion to approve it? Yeah, it was moved and seconded. It passes 5-0. The next item withdrawn. The next item, A04, is the amendment to the board policy regarding volunteer screening. Make it a motion, please. Superintendent Greer, want to talk about it?
Sure. As you may recall, earlier in the year, we had a report of a registered sex offender volunteering in one of our high schools, and we quickly found that we were not doing background checks on volunteers. And we tonight are asking the board to approve a change in policy F580. Some of the highlighted changes, we would, again, would make sure that everyone understands that volunteers would not displace a bargaining unit member or be placed in a position where an employee was laid off. We also want to come back, or I've asked staff to come back with a recommended change in our procedures that quite frankly would require volunteers to undergo different levels of background screening based upon their position, what they do at the school, how long they serve, etc. It may be as simple as reference checks for some folks, but it may be Social Security checks for others, and people who are in a more direct role, as this individual was, we would require them to consent to a fingerprint background, full background check. And someone said, well, who would pay for this? I would recommend that the district does. Volunteers giving their time and service, and it would be something that we would have to find ways to either out of an individual school's budget or the district budget to pay for.
Could they volunteer to pay for it if they...
Anyone that wants to volunteer to pay for anything in this district right now would be very welcome. But right now, the real issue is, I think you would agree, is the safety and welfare of our students and our staff.
Mr. DeBeck?
Okay, this policy is interesting because it doesn't mention TB screening.
One of my things.
Which I believe is required. And it also says that volunteers were required to undergo background screenings, but doesn't say any specific ones. So then it means that everyone, I'm trying to interpret this, means that everyone will be screened, but the level of screening will vary according to something that I'm not sure about. So let's just say, would that have helped in the recent case? Probably not. because, well, you don't know that. There might have been a fingerprint, but the fingerprint might not have, unless somebody ran it and paid for it. Okay, so we're going to run a fingerprint on everybody?
Yeah, well, that's the superintendent is, I mean, we've got that particular case in
What I'm
mind.
getting at is, if you just say the level of screening varies with the amount of contact with the kids, let's say it's minimal contact and minimal screening, and it's still a sex offender. What's good in that? You know, either you have a uniform process for finding whatever people are afraid of and do it right for everyone. That means everybody's assured that all the people are going through screening. If you say, well, there's some kind of screening and other kinds of screening, then I'll bet you someday soon there'll be somebody that missed some kind of screening and turns out to be the same headline. So, you know, I think you really have to say, okay, we have a policy, which is that volunteers that work with kids are going to have TB exams because that's required for contact with kids anyway. It's not in this policy, by the way. And in addition, they're going to be fingerprinted. Now, we didn't say we're going to run the fingerprints, but that certainly is something we have to think about because there's a cost involved in not only taking them, but also in the running of them. But, you know, I think screening, if screening is supposed to be done, I think it needs to be done in a uniform way so there's no loopholes. And Megan's List was one. I think we used to have something like that we had to run, we could run people against, but we haven't even implemented that. So, you know, I don't think this is adequate. And I'm going to say that unless I have some specific standard requirements, including the health check, then I think that our policy regarding volunteers should be uniform for all volunteers, and it doesn't matter whether they walk in the classroom for 2 hours or 10.
Superintendent Dr. Evans?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. If that's what the board wants to do,
well, that's up to them.
We can require everyone to go through fingerprint background checks, and we can make sure everyone has TB tests before they ever walk into the classroom for any amount of time as a volunteer. Mark might want to speak to that, and I don't know whether he does or not, but we've had this conversation with, I've had this conversation with the staff. Quite frankly, I kind of would err on Mr. DeBeck's side, and the staff will tell you that. They have tried to use reason, I've tried to listen, and they've tried to say there's times when you may have a parent that comes in for a day that volunteers during a particular celebration, or a person who comes in and does a presentation, and that's a volunteer, and they're volunteering their time for that day. And their question was to require a TB test for parents and a full-blown fingerprint exam for that situation they felt was a bit extreme. But having said that, I think Mark wanted to comment. I don't care.
The comment that I wanted to make, and then Mr. Koba might have some additional comments, is we have an existing administrative procedure on volunteer screening. This amendment is to the more general board policy. The committee that's working on this has also been and will be working on changing that procedure. That procedure already calls for TB testing where it's required by law. For volunteers, there are very few legal provisions on this, and there is no requirement for screening of volunteers. But the idea is the more general board policy would be amended first, and then based on that amendment that now specifically calls for volunteer screening, there would be further amendments to the administrative procedure that addresses a lot of these issues and contains in its draft form what Dr. Greer was talking about, the different levels of screening for different levels of volunteer.
Dr. Evans, please.
Yeah,
And Mr.
what I would like to see, I don't think we can work out the details of this up here, is to move forward in terms of the administration and staff coming up with what's a reasonable volunteer policy. That obviously these issues that places first and foremost the safety of the children and everybody at the schools, but also that doesn't result in unintended consequences of something ridiculous, like we're having a big fiesta where everyone's walking through the door, has to be screened before they come in and so forth, because we can become, it's very possible to go way overboard on this, and I'm not in any way saying we need to compromise the safety of children, but I think we need to say, by this, we're directing the staff to come up with a reasonably tiered policy based on what's going on. I've seen situations where safety was taken so severely that a family member was not able to, deliver a lunch to their kid because they're not allowed on the school grounds and other ridiculous things like that. We want a volunteer-friendly and a parent-family friendly environment, and at the same time screening out the people who shouldn't be there.
And we even talked about when we do the background screening and things come back, then what kinds of convictions would exclude a person from volunteering, and that has to do with and there's a lot of discussion about that among staff as well. And Mark will tell you that California law only lists a handful of things that prohibit people from volunteering in the public schools of California. School districts and school boards and staff have the authority to expand that list, which there are some things that I think that are not on the state list that ought to be on ours, but there are other things that are less serious that I don't think should be included.
Okay, Ms. Nakamura, please.
Yeah, I agree that this is, we want to try and strike a balance here, and it's far more complicated than people realize, not only because of all the different moving parts in this, but also because different people's standards of what safety means. There are a lot of people out there, and there are all sorts of definitions of a bad person. The boogeyman, who does exist, comes in all sorts of different shapes and sizes, and trying to define that is difficult. But what I wanted to bring to this board's attention is something that's reminding me I've been meaning to bring to the superintendent's attention for actually a couple of weeks here. I was at Marvin Elementary School the other day, and they have a really wonderful device. You come in, it's got a computer screen, you type in your name, and it prints out a little badge with your name on it.
Yeah.
You can even have it take a picture of that individual. You know that person is on campus, which is really one of the biggest challenges. And then you can do a print. At the end of the day, the principal does a printout for people who have checked out, and you actually get a sense of everybody who's been on campus for that day. And Dr. Greer, why are you laughing at me? I am.
No, we've got that in a number of schools across the district, and we have had very good feedback, and I've also got blistering emails and phone calls from very offended people that come to school and have to have their photographs made before they can visit the school. And
too darn bad.
That's the reason I was smiling.
But if I think that's a minimum precaution, and it's a minimum standard that we can easily implement. And I'll tell you, if you are the boogeyman, you don't like having your picture taken, and you don't have your name recorded, and it does bother you. So,
Okay, Mr. Koba, and then we need a motion, and then Mr. DeBeck.
Thank you, President Jackson. I just wanted to amplify on what Dr. Greer and what Mark mentioned. We did form a working group with police chief, legal counsel, community relations, myself, and have taken the current policy, overhauled it, and captured, I think, many of the observations you've all had here tonight about categorizing between one time and many frequent interactions with a student, the kind of controls from the tuberculosis to the background to the fingerprint check. We're about 99% there. Today's opportunity was to provide you a heads up of a procedural change. We'll be back with the complete I think, scrub document, moving it through cabinet, Dr. Greer, on its way to you. So this kind of observations you'll see reflected in the final document.
Okay, Mr. DeBeck, please.
Okay, I'm just going to throw out language ideas because I think it sort of helps. I'm not making a motion because I just want people's. One of the things that you have is, first of all, there ought to be some question about unsupervised contact, okay? So let's say some parent comes and they're going to participate in the birthday or I don't know what. If it's more than 5 hours of unsupervised contact, that could be some kind, and I say 5 hours making up, that's a week. So, if you're a person that's trying to get into the head of a kid or something, it's going to take you a bit of time. And I don't know whether you want to say 5 hours or 2
Establish a
hours or
relationship.
what. But so I'd say somebody that's going to come in and volunteer more than 5 hours of unsupervised contact would have to have reasonable screening, and that could include like references or background checks. See, and I think what I'm talking about is staff, go back and figure it out. You know what I mean? This is suggestions, but I think there's some kind of reasonable set of things. For example, it might be somebody that's been in the PTA for like 5 years and everybody knows them. Well, then there certainly ought to be a couple of letters of recommendation would be adequate screening. For somebody you never saw before that came in from Timbuktu and just walked in and says, I want to work with little kids, you say, wait a minute, I need some references and we're going to do some more stuff, and maybe you decide on that. So I think you need some kinds of just not a blank, you know, I trust the superintendent to do that, but I'd rather see as a board a series of kind of comments around what a reasonable screenings would be, whether or not student contact was a part of the requirement. If you just came to stand around and cheer at a birthday, so what?
Okay, I think that's what the staff is saying that they're working on, and so when it comes to the board, we'll have a full discussion. What I need from you board members is a motion to modify, thank you, to modify our current policy.
Right, and so I second it, and basically by this motion, we are directing the superintendent to come up with a policy, and he will come back with us.
And they're working on it. So
this is not the wording.
Right.
All right, fair enough.
Right, they're going to come back with a whole policy. Thank
Okay.
you.
7:20.
Okay, that passes 5-0. Thank you.
And nothing else to do.
The next item is item H05, resolution in the matter of authorizing the sale of an amount
approval.
not to exceed 100. Thank you very much. Yes.
We'll do that in no time.
Everybody's moved and seconded. Any discussions?
Already voted.
Mr.
Okay, Mr. Barrera, please vote. Okay, you got it, Mr. Markey. You got your bonds there. Go forth and prosper.
We would like an extreme makeover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why are you leaving, young man? You can't do that. Once we vote on something, you can't just get up and leave. Say, hey, have a seat.
Arrest that
He's
man.
running out to do those bonds. He's going to go get that bond money.
All right.
That's right.
Yeah. If I'd known that, we moved
That's our
it up.
bond council. You pay him by the hour.
By the hour? We should have moved it up earlier. Yeah. Yes. Okay, let's go to the iCalendar, and we'll try to
Move approval.
Hold it. What? I haven't read my... I know you're happy, Catherine. Hold on.
Move A1 and
Action,
2.
well,
She wants to read it.
action, well, I have to at least get to
Oh, she
what
has
we
a
have.
script. That's right. Sorry.
I got something for my board peers here at the meeting. Action by the Board of Education in Section I, Superintendent's Consent Agenda. At this point of the agenda means all items appearing in Section I are adopted by one single motion, unless a member of the board or the superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted separately. Generally, consent agenda items are a matter which members of the board and superintendent concur are routine in nature. It should be acted on in one motion to conserve time and permit focus on other than routine matters on this agenda. In addition to items I-10, I-20, I-45, which was withdrawn by the staff, we have requests to speak on items I-4, I-14, I-22, I-41, and 44.
I have a question.
Does any board member wish to remove any items from the consent agenda?
I just realized, General Counsel, my son's field trip to Seattle is on here. Do I have to recuse myself?
No.
Okay.
Okay, include IO5 for public comments as well. Did any board member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda?
I don't want to remove them, but I want to point out that I-07 and I-08 sound the same,
Okay.
except
Okay.
one says San Diego 2 and San Diego 3, and I don't, unless they're two different organizations, I guess that might be two separate motions. Are they two organizations? Staff? Okay.
Okay. If there's no other board...
It's actually the same organization. They're just two different accounts that are held. One's for debt service, one's for...
All right, fair enough.
Okay. Okay, anyway, we have some speakers. We'll call the speakers up, and then we will go from there.
I have a quick question. Why is my son going to Seattle and Mission Bay High School is going to
Excuse
Italy
me,
and Greece?
This is not the appropriate place for you to discuss your school's field trips. Thank you. Ms. Leticia, CSEA representative, I-04, Larry Isom, I-14, and you all come up and you'll speak, and then we'll go to I'll go after that. Jason Ballard, I think it is, I-22, Mike Lance, I-41, Kathy Deacon, I-41, Gabby Barnes, I-44, and I think this is Mike Goldwater, I-05.
Good evening, Madam President and board members. My name is Leticia Munguian. I'm a staff member with California School Employees Association, Superintendent Dr. Greer. Good evening. I'm coming to you today after raising a series of concerns through your higher level management as it relates to the physical plant operations reorganization. You have heard from me before as it relates to over a year and a half ago, you asked us to partner with you in the reorganization out of the physical plant operations. And one of my most recent concerns has been, as of last fall, is that I do not believe that the efforts being made by management are cost neutral. That was one of the primary concerns that were guaranteed to us, that the efforts being made through this reorganization would be cost neutral. I just want to highlight for you that I hope in your due diligence you've noticed one element of this particular agenda item, which is I-04. I'm not speaking against any one of these individuals who would be inherently benefited by these positions, but I am speaking to you from a perspective of equity, parity, and also from the perspective of saving our work in our bargaining unit. We've come to you repeatedly to tell you that our members that are standing here, all of the Operations Support Services unit, are ready to do the work. Yet again, whether it's through your legal department or maybe some other direction, and I cannot put the blame, that's for you to investigate, the work continues to leave our district, and it leaves our workforce. And I'm speaking to you from our trades division, I'm speaking to you from our landscape perspective, I speak to you from our bus driving perspective. You currently have 2 contracts, one with First Student and the other one with Ryan Express. And that work is our people's work. You're looking at cutting $10 million in magnet school busing, which we hope you reconsider that, because we can do the work in-house. Our drivers want to do the work in-house. This agenda item in front of you, this is all a charade. You're eliminating 5 positions, but you're creating 10 new positions at over $115,000 apiece. How can you support this in this economic time? Everyone is trying to save every single dollar and coin we have, but yet again, you're investing in these higher paid positions. Now, I understand that you may need to have the justification for this, but as we get ready to celebrate this in the next week, Cesar Chavez holiday, right, that this district does not recognize for its employees, and I hope that someday soon you will, this valuable member in our community that stood for civil rights, for representation of the United Farm Workers, that yet I'm waiting for you to celebrate them because you haven't. Cesar Chavez was an instrumental workforce person for us as part of the labor movement. And I ask that you reconsider, first of all, why is it that your communications department has not invested a cent of time in recognizing this person in our community that means a lot to us in the labor movement and for the Latino community in general? Why is he not being recognized? I want to just ask that question. Furthermore, at a deeper level, is why are we not protecting the work of our people instead of giving it to outside consultants and contractors? Thank you.
Thank you.
Larry Isom, past president of the California School Employees Association. I'm a school bus driver. I'm here to talk about transportation. I believe what we have here is a knee-jerk reaction to make decisions based on inaccurate numbers, and $10 million getting saved from programs from doing away with magnet programs is not going to happen. It's not even close to reality. I've sat with some of the budget people in transportation. I've sat with some of the people in decision-making positions in transportation, and I'm not sure that the numbers you have are accurate. You need to just double-check and make sure you're getting correct information. Knee-jerk reaction because I've seen this before. I've seen it when we were cut, when Alan Burson was superintendent, and he spent us into a $150 million deficit. And we went through the same kind of thing. I want you to be careful about the cuts you make. You talked about recruitment to magnet schools, but yet you're creating a deficit there by cutting magnet transportation. You're talking about recruitment and getting more students in your school district, but you're talking about doing away with service. Doesn't make sense. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mike Goldwater, 4350 Mount Everest Boulevard, San Diego, 92117. I'd like to speak tonight on ratification I.05, ratification of certificated and classified personnel actions, Board Governance Policy OE TAC 4. First of all, I wanted to compliment the Board of Education in eliminating 2 positions, Director of Labor Relations, Director of Human Resources. Neither one of these individuals, by the Fair Labor Standards Act, were qualified for the positions. Thank you. You're listening. That's good. The problem is that you have 7 other positions, manager positions, about $450,000 to $500,000 worth of positions being advertised right now as I talk to you at the management level on classified and certificated. The interesting thing about it is that for advertising on a classified area on the computer, it's rather challenging because each individual candidate must have minimal of a BA, minimal of a Tier 1 administrative credential. Now, there's about 7,000 and change classified individuals. I know one person who's a bus driver who's completed her academics for a doctorate in English. One person out of about 7,000. I appreciate the fact that you're opening it up to management positions to classified. But if a person has a Tier 1 credential, that means they've taught at least 3 years by the USD and San Diego State criteria through the state of California. If they taught for 3 years, they're probably certificated. So why on earth are you advertising this? Management positions that require a Tier 1 credential, 7 of them, on the classified webpage, management. So I'm scratching my head, I'm trying to think about that. This other thing I'm concerned with is now that these other positions, as I said, Director of Classified Personnel, Director of Labor Relations, now that they've essentially been eliminated, please, when you're looking at hiring individuals, make sure, and this is directed to Mark Breezy, General Counsel, make sure that they qualify under the Fair Labor Standards Act. If they're a director or a chief, by golly, under federal law, they better have a master's. If they're a manager, they better have a BA or BS. Not the fact that they were a secretary for 15, 20 years, or not the fact that they were a truck driver at one time and gets along well with people. They're qualified according to federal law. Don't we receive federal payments, federal monies? That means we have to deal with it. Last thing, Superintendent Greer, you haven't been at the school lately. Come by. They are asking for your attendance.
I'll be there. Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Jason Balo. I am a teacher in the district, but today I'm here as a parent. I'm going to be talking on the Tariq Kamisa issue, I-22. As a teacher, I have worked with the Tariq Kamisa Foundation, and it is a wonderful, wonderful program. At the root of its philosophy is multicultural understanding and respect. An excellent way to achieve this is through multicultural environments. A reduction in busing, music, and art is counterproductive in this endeavor. I have a 7-year-old daughter who attends Spreckles Elementary School, and I have tried to teach her that when she's very saddened about the proposed changes, and I tried to teach her that when you don't agree with something, you need to stand up for it in a productive way. So her and I wrote this poem together, and I would like to read it to you. Ode to Spreckles. If you change our school, that's not cool. We have several reasons why, and we won't be shy. First of all, if you recall, Brown v. Board gave equal rights to all. The buses allow for us to meet kids that we might not see on our street. We learn about new cultures, and that is great. If you take away the buses, there could be a lot of hate. It's about opportunity and choice, the American dream. Just look at our president. You will see what we mean. You're turning back the clock when our future is bright. We have come so far in the fight for civil rights. It all starts with the youth. You know it's true. So do the right thing and what's best for our school. Now let's talk about the programs that all kids love. Starting with music, it's important to us. We look forward to those days when Mr. Sibley comes and sings. You don't even know the joy that he brings. Learning about tempo, pitch, and beats, it gets our heart pumping and tapping our feet. Art is another class that we can't wait for. When Mrs. Streb comes to teach, we all burst through the door, ready to learn new things we never learned before, like designs, symbols, feelings, and much more. Without art, school would be such a bore. Kids need to have fun and learn at the same time. Taking away art and music would be such a terrible crime. We know these decisions are difficult to make. We don't envy your position. There is a lot at stake. Please think about this carefully and make the right choice. You are the leaders and our only voice. We understand that some changes must be made, but what has been proposed just doesn't make the grade. By telling you what's important to us, at least we have tried to fight for our school and show you our pride. Spreckles is amazing just how it is. The teachers are great, and so are all the kids. It wouldn't be the same without music, art, and the buses, so please don't change us. Let's discuss this. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. Welcome to the new board members. Mr. Superintendent, my name is Kathy Deacon, and I've run around this district for a long time in our labor organization, as well as support for all of our children. I wanted to speak to you tonight about this $2 million going forward for the nutrition of our children. It's not a bad idea. I think that's great. The other day, I had a kid get on my bus, and he was starving. He didn't bring any money for lunch. I had a bag of pretzels, and I gave it to him, you know. I mean, he was just out of his mind, hungry. High school. This was a high school student at Claremont. So, yeah, I think it needs to be expanded. Education code says food service is the only department in the districts can make a profit. That's great. Now, where am I going as a union representative? Well, I've been in these kitchens. I have talked to our kitchen workers. Do you know what? We don't have enough kitchen workers. Why don't we have enough kitchen workers? Because the labor is hard. If you're looking at this to build kiosks, don't forget to put air conditioners in our kitchen. If you're looking at this to increase feeding the children so they can learn, very simple, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food comes down at the very bottom along with shelter before learning can come in. Okay? Do that. But you know what? In order to make a successful program, you must listen to what the Porterland study has to say. You paid big bucks for Porterland to come in. You need to look at what the Porterland study has to say about the food service department. You need to increase the positions, and you need to make them good positions, benefited positions. You need to have a good working environment. You have the opportunity. I said as president under Proposition MM, I watched that money be spent. I watched housing go away and all these elementaries come. Okay, Proposition S is our hope to take and refine some of the mistakes that were made in MM with the big buildings. But you know what? Make sure, listen to the Porterland study, make sure that you're not just paying to build these kiosks and build these things, but that they are going to be manned. Ask the department, show us how you're going to increase our hours for our people, increase our benefits, show us how this relates to the Porterland. It's great talking to all of you, and welcome all the new board members, and I'll be talking a little bit later as well.
Good evening, board members. My name is Mike Lance. I reside at 9236 Lake Hill in Santee. Tonight I want to speak to you also on the same item, Agenda I-41. I have a little problem with the idea of a department asking for that $2 million for the carts, for the simple purpose that I thought Proposition S was set up, and a lot of people who are here in this room and other places said that Proposition S was going to be like Prop MM, to help develop new schools, build new things, and look into that, not for food service department to increase the profiteering that they've been doing for so many years. I work in the supply warehouse. Food service came to you and said that they saved money to get rid of the Pomona warehouse. That food is in our warehouse now. We're a distribution services. We have distributed the books and all this, and you commended us on all the hard jobs that we did. We can't do our work with food in our aisles. We can't work when they take over a third of the warehouse. We can't work when the science department takes over the warehouse with all their kits, science kits. We have been pushed and pushed. I've been there since 1980. I've watched that department deteriorate. I was down to my last roll of tape to tape a box closed to send out material. We didn't have money to buy tape because everything was froze up. I understand you froze the funds. But the problem is here that how can one department be so profiting in so much, and you look at people who break their necks to bring you furniture and all their supplies and everything, and you turn your back on us. We have gone down from personnel that I had on the floor at 7 to 12 people at one time. There's one guy on the floor. How come we can continue to build up such a large person and give them $2 million in carts? Where are those carts going to go? They're going to put them in the warehouse. We've got to keep them stored and take care of them, keep them working, functioning properly to take them back out to the sites. Putting a freezer in the warehouse, on the outside of the warehouse. Keep eating us away. Keep it up. Eventually, you guys are going to see what's going to happen when that warehouse is gone and you don't have us. You think that direct delivery is going to work? I don't think so. I've seen large items come through and we can't even get them in our trucks to deliver. Sites refuse large orders that come out there. Quit giving all the money to all the ones departments. Like you said tonight, Mr. Barrera, you said, let's wait until the state wakes up. Quit giving all these certain departments large amounts of money. We can't touch it. All the departments can't touch it because it's frozen for those departments. Let's make them open it up so we can take care of and work on all the departments that are in need. I'm talking transportation and all of them. Thank you very much.
Before we move away from that, I got a question about 41. He raised it.
Yeah, well, you get to pull it and you can talk about it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I have one other one I want to talk about.
We'll pull those,
We haven't made our decision on pulling yet.
Right.
This is just, okay.
Okay, very good.
All right, so that one and I-49 and 50.
Okay.
Good evening. My name's Gabby Barnes. I'm a landscape tech too, and I'm also a CSEA job steward for the landscaping department. This document, I-44, it inaccurately reflects the reality of our workforce. We can do this work in-house. As classified workers, we have ownership in our sites, in our communities. Our children grew up in these schools. And satisfactory work is not good enough. We do quality work. We ask that you give us an opportunity to do the work. We ask that you pull this item. Thank you for supporting classified.
Item 44?
I-44.
Okay. Okay.
Bird control devices?
Okay. So, let me go back to the board members. Board members, are there any items that you would like to pull?
I'd like to continue the discussion on 41.
Okay,
and
41.
then I'd like to talk about 49 and 50 as one.
49, 50?
Yeah.
Any other items, board members? 44?
I-04.
I-04. Okay, so I'm pulling items 4, 41, 44, 49, and 50. You want to make a motion to pass the rest?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Please vote. Let's start with item I-04 first. Dr. Evans?
Okay, first of all, I have a malfunctioning computer, so bear with me. I just, on this particular item, which is, excuse me, is it 4?
I got it.
It's H
I4?
I04.
Okay, here it is.
Classification, yeah.
I don't understand all the details of this, so, and I know we've talked about reorganization and classified management levels and so forth, so I don't know if Superintendent Greer, if you can give kind of an explanation of what's going on here, because I'm a little uncomfortable with just giving a blanket approval without understanding it better.
I can tell you what I know. I was in hopes that Mr. Koba or Phil Stover might be willing to speak to this. I don't see Phil here this evening. This was part of the reorganization plan that the board approved last year and was looking to, we're looking to implement the plan during the year. And Bill, I don't know if you want to address this, or again, I don't see Phil or other members of the staff here.
Well, I think the concern, while they're preparing to come up, they're going to come up and speak. I think the concern is that we have been presented possibly with some change, some of the changes in departments, the reorganization charts, but the concerns that come now is whether or not it's actually cost neutral, and there, so that is the question that comes before us. So what I might recommend, if board members don't mind, is that staff takes this back, look at it, and put, I'm saying, put those items in the board docket so that we know. Because what happens is when someone comes up and asks us, we can't defend it, and you have to come up. But it would be much better if it ties back to something that we actually know and do. So I think it'd be more helpful for the board.
I would ask President Jackson for a little clarification. I'm looking at I-04.
Yes.
Right.
And there are 15 personnel transactions.
Exactly.
And which one, because these are not all PPO.
Okay, can I talk about one, or the whole thing? If you look at these, you'll see two things. It's a very common in this practice that this board gets. One is establishing a new position, and the other is abolishing a similar position. What happens is periodically, because of labor needs or higher, let's say a new kind of technology or ability to do certain things, the existing position doesn't cut it. That's the way I want to put it. So I'll take this first one. There's a director of construction management department job classification that's grade 32, but they're abolishing that, but they're plugging in a director of construction at a salary grade 34. So there's what it is this is work similar, but one is a higher paid job. Now, it may be competition for the job or not. I'm not going to justify it. I'm just saying what I believe that we're seeing. So then you have the next one. 3 and 4 are tied together. It's two different jobs being described by either for demand, they want to hire somebody that's special, that's going to take more money, or they're going to increase the responsibilities. In most cases, you'll find that there is some salary change. Sometimes there's savings because they've downgraded it. So then you go down the line and you see establish, abolish, establish, abolish. And sometimes you'll find like number 7 is established and no abolish to go with it.
But if we could...
So I think what we need to do is couple these with decisions we've made. Now, I've looked down at the bottom where the ones I really know about are the ones having to do with the idea of the work that we're doing on the information tech. We had recently briefed of that. Well, now, some of those were already stuff that we've all been briefed on. So the problem with this is when you lump them all together and we don't understand, what you're going to get is a certain amount of pushback that needs to be explained before we vote on it. So that's what I suggest.
What I'd like to recommend, President Jackson, is that the board, if you're willing, approve items 10 through 15, which you have been briefed on, so that we can move forward and advertise those positions. There is a savings as a result because we're eliminating other positions. And what I'll ask staff to do from now on is we're going to reformat how we start bringing this information to you so that you will have either been briefed about this or you will have more more information than you got in your folder this time, and I will as well. And we will go back and show in each one of these departments what we have reduced to pay for these additional costs.
I'll move
Because,
10 to 15.
Okay, it's been moved 10 to 15.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Just one more comment, Superintendent. I think that in the bringing this forward, I like to see job descriptions so we can hold
Exactly.
people
We'll
accountable.
do that.
So please include that as part of your display.
We'll do this. We'll have this back to you on your meeting on the 10th.
Okay, can we?
So I just wanted to comment on the ones before 10, just with the information that was brought up, mainly the idea that, because I can't see it at a glance, that 5 positions were eliminated and 10 were created, that it was a $115,000 cost increase, because, again, the idea has been, that we've looked at always has been in terms of either reorganizing cost neutral or decreasing costs.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're on the same page.
Let's take item number 41, please. You want to continue discussion on item number 41? Does someone-
41 is,
Carts.
oh yeah, food carts, okay. I think I said I wanted to talk about it. I need to ask, I
Kiosks.
guess, legal counsel. Prop S didn't specify food carts. Prop S doesn't allow for anything but what's listed in the project. They're saying here that we're going to use the wiggle room of saying that these we're going to use in interim before we build the kiosks that Prop S requires. Well, we have state school building funds that do equipment, and so state school building funds could handle this funding okay. But I don't think you can say that we're going to pay double out of Prop S for a project, and one of them is an interim thing for a solution to a vote that the public made. The vote from the public was for Prop S to build kiosks, and they voted in favor of it. They did not vote for this provision that before you build a kiosk, you build carts.
The motion's been school.
Well, they're supposed to
So
work
I
in
don't
tandem.
mind making an amendment that the carts are paid for out of state school building funds if that's necessary. And sure, go ahead, Gary.
No problem with that.
But the point I'm making is, I think we had a legal problem when we start moving from what we said in Prop S to some kind of accommodation of Prop S.
Stu can correct me if I'm wrong about the wording on Prop S, but to answer your question regarding the kiosks and the carts were going to be extensions of the kiosks which would reach out into the outer areas of the high school property so that we can reach the students and bring the food to the students because of the time involved in them actually participating in a meal program.
But if somebody asked you what they were, you'd say equipment. You wouldn't say kiosks.
Right, and not everything is named
So I'm saying,
specifically.
I'm getting you the kiosk, but I'm not paying for it out of Prop S, okay? If it passes.
Okay. If I could just
If we
mention
can
that...
use state facilities money, Mr. Koba, is that appropriate use of state facilities money? That is the question.
Answer your questions, yes, you can use state facility dollars for that.
I understand that Mr. DeBeck is making a motion that we use state facilities money for this item versus Prop S. Is that your motion, Mr. DeBeck?
That's right.
Is there a second to that motion?
I guess the question is there enough state facility funds to pay for this? Because this is a need that students have.
Yes. There is.
Mr. DeBeck is
We
absolutely...
may not have identified it. I mean,
Mr. DeBeck is absolutely correct. There's language in the proposition that calls for purchasing of equipment, and there's also language in the proposition which calls for food service work. So there's 2 avenues for that.
And the language is quite general, quite frankly.
Yes.
But again, this is whatever the board decides.
We're going to spend the money out of that anyway, first.
well, I think if Proposition S, allows that, I'd move approval for 141 as it stands and let the staff...
Okay, well, Mr. DeBeck had a motion, it is now second, and...
Was it seconded?
It wasn't seconded yet, let's
Yeah.
give him a chance. Okay, then, I'll take another motion then.
Okay, I just move approval for I.41 for the food carts under Proposition S.
Is there a second for that?
I second that.
Okay. Any more discussion?
No.
Comments? Please vote.
Okay.
That passes 4-1. The next item that we need to discuss is item 44, I-44.
Okay.
Pest control.
Okay. So the question would be, who pulled this?
Yeah, I pulled it. So yeah, so the question is, why aren't we using in-house labor to do this work?
Good question. For $14,000.
Yeah.
$15,000.
My understanding on that one is that
Nobody does?
with something like that, there's a health problem when the birds are defecating on the kids.
I
on the
understand
site.
that. The question is, why can't our staff do
I
it?
believe that this was put to district staff, to PPO, and they couldn't do it. So we had to expedite the work, and that's, I believe, why it was done with a contract.
Excuse me, where we just had a speaker that said they could do it. And who appoints PPO?
Yeah, can we?
Who runs PPO, please? And where's the speaker at?
Yeah, Leticia, if
We don't want to get in the speaker.
Well, we don't want to do this, but the question is, if we're getting two conflicting stories, then I need to know what is right. And it might not be nice, and it might not be pretty, but we need to know what is right up here. Please.
When people...
But that's, it says, for the not to exceed amount due to in-house forces being unable to perform this type.
$14,000.
It's not much, but it's still work for people that are on our payroll.
It was our understanding that this kind of work required a specific skill set, some permits and licenses. We have one pest control expert in our district who carries particular licenses and permits to do various kinds of work, and that was the understanding I had. I mean, we can verify that for sure, but this was not a typical boilerplate type of work that we do for pest control.
Okay.
Okay,
I guess, go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I think that I would certainly table this and ask for more discussion with the classified employees. Yeah.
Sure.
I respectfully disagree. There are children that are sitting under this. It's been an ongoing thing since last year. Is this the one where we pulled it out of? Okay.
As far as I know,
This isn't from the ad hoc task force and the cluster school meetings. Did we get after that one? Okay.
This is a new requirement.
Okay.
Okay. There's, I guess, a motion to table this. Is that seconded?
I second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. We table this. Okay, discussions? It passes 3-2.
Well, President Jackson, I've had a member of staff say, and I apologize if I didn't catch it, and I don't know whether Cheryl did either, that you discussed items 10 through 15. You talked about it, you nodded, you had a motion and a second, but I'm not sure.
We voted.
Did you actually vote?
Yeah, we did.
5-0.
We voted on it, yes. And then Mr.
Staff needs to pay more careful attention to board behavior.
It's on TV.
Okay.
We don't say
They say it's even on tape.
49 and 50, Mr. DeBeck, please.
Yeah, okay, I think we can wrap this one pretty fast.
Okay.
For years, we've had this surplus of portables. Most of them were DSA not certified, and the basic thing was it cost more to fix them than to build new ones. Now we got two items here. One, we're going to renovate them, and the other is we're going to move them. I'm not, are we going to move renovated ones? Are we going to move ones that are already DSA certified? Are we going to, what's going on? I mean, we got more portables than we know what to do with, and we basically ought to just dump them and only use the ones that are absolutely DSA certified and do it because we can't get in.
I agree.
I mean, you know, some of them are landlocked with buildings, so you can't do anything about moving them. But I don't know what this is all about.
Okay, the first item is for a K-8 conversion at Bethune Elementary, and we're going to have 2 new modular classrooms, 1 science classroom. We're going to upgrade 6 portables, site work, and a variety of other things to get the K-8 conversion in. That's an entire site plan. I agree, we've got 2,300 portables. We're going to remove about 350 in Prop S, plus about another 114 or so. So we've got a very aggressive plan to try to get rid of these portables. In this particular case, we're going to upgrade the ones we have. We're going to build a classroom and bring that site up to the K-8 standard.
And that would be, well, stop right there.
Yes, sir.
Stop with the, let's just say the Bethune one. Okay, so then, there are portables there that you're going to spend money on that were still going to be old buildings, but they're going to be upgraded to DSA standards.
Yes, sir.
And they're not going to be anywhere near as, I'll call it modern, as a modular, right? And they won't have air, and they won't have some other stuff, right? They're just, and they may not have the same life as a modular one either.
I can't speak to the air conditioning.
Okay,
I believe
okay.
it's going to have AC.
All right, well then, okay. So then what you're saying is that this is cheaper than modulars, then I guess I have to agree.
Absolutely.
All right, end of that.
The other project is for moving services. In this, we get 60 to 70 moves, foundations, infrastructure, ADA work, and this is for our temporary housing requirements for the proposition. And we've got to set these sites up at various locations as we do work, as we move
You
move
mean
out of
when
one
you
site
start to
into
tear a
another.
school apart for asbestos, for
Yes,
example,
sir.
you got to build an alternate classroom for that, but you're going to use portables instead.
Right. This is IDIQ work, right.
But are you going to move them into portables that aren't DSA standard, or are you going to just, I'm not going to move portables that need to be fixed.
There are two kinds of DSA certification. One is for the actual structure itself. That happens when they come out of the plant or when we build them on a site. The second DSA certification is for the location. It has to do with path of travel, ADA requirements.
Ramps.
So sometimes it involves ramps and other things like that. And that's the certification that we're talking about here.
Okay, well, I guess I'm getting at is that at I-50, all the portables after they're moved are going to be fully certified for DSA standards. And they'll also meet ADA standards as well. And they'll have a life, and the cost of that, they'll have a life equivalent to, or a life equivalent to a modular that was put in place of those. Can't quit. Then I'll just move approval of those two items.
Okay.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please vote. I have one more. Okay, that passes 5-0. I have one more comment before we leave the consent items. There was a comment brought up about busing, and I know we have a contract with First Student. I was not aware we had a contract with anyone else. They said Ryan's Express. So could the superintendent and staff provide information about that? I am very concerned if we have another bus contract, because we were struggling with First Student, and to have another bus contract when we're looking at not having bus routes for some of our in-house bus drivers does not make sense.
Where is this item?
No, I was following up on a comment that was made during public comment, that we have two contracts, First Student and Ryan's Express.
Well, isn't our, because...
No, I'm just asking to provide information to us.
Okay, well, what I'm getting at is we have on the table some decisions around magnet busing and a bunch of other stuff. I would certainly believe that our intent would be to use, even though the magnet busing was provided by outside contractors, should anything ever happen to change it, we'll do everything we can to keep it in-house.
That's my point, but I want to make sure
And
that...
I think that's given, but I would state it myself.
Clarification on Ryan Express, if you don't.
Except they can't
Okay.
do it. They can't do it.
I mean, okay.
What I wanted to assure, though, the board that our intent is to make any contracted bus support only a supplemental as needed, as necessary, that it is always focused on doing in-house bus transportation.
I just want to make sure that point is very, very clear. And the board, and if you have additional contracts, I think the board should know about it, because my concern would be this, is that this Ryan's Express, and I have part of it here, and maybe when it came, it was under consent, and I didn't notice it like I probably really should have, but I have very, very grave concerns with us having a company on standby when our bus drivers do not have full-day work. What my my concern arises from the fact that they have in the morning and then they have some routes in the evening, and they have that midday section that we've been trying to fill with something. And these people aren't making a lot of money, and so to send out work just doesn't work. And so that's my concern, and I think I would just like more information about that, please.
Okay. I'm not familiar with that.
No, I said
Know that it's in the middle of the day?
But
I mean, these
I just
contracts?
say that, well, that's what this is, and I'll share this with the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just provide more information to us, thank you. The next item that we have on our agenda is public comment. We had some speakers that we did not finish from the first round of public comment, so if it's okay with the board, we'll go ahead and we'll get started with the public comments. I'll start on the blue sheet first, and we have...
Everybody's still there?
Okay, if everybody's still here, we got plenty of people though. Ethel Larkins, Clark Osley, Corey Korsugi. If I'm hurting your name, please just correct me when you come up.
Kosugi.
Sue Hertz, Diana Rodriguez, Paul Fusco, Frank Ingo, and Karen Elaine. If you're still here, please come forward.
Ethel Larkins, President, Operations Support Service, 724 Classified. I'm here representing your custodial department, transportation department, food service, landscapers, warehouses, distribution, maintenance and op, which is now PPO, which are our tradespeople, our plumbers, electrician, carpenters, asphalt. Also, we have the mailroom and delivery drivers. I'm speaking about the media release that San Diego Unified put out on March the 10th, where you seem to want to bargain with the public and the parents and not with us, the union, or give us any notification where you ask us to be open and transparent and give you some advice and notice regarding major changes on inputting issues. All of it would have taken only a phone call or an email, but you're making it look like if we, the union, do not do what you want, it's our fault. It's about respect, and once again, showing that you don't value our workers or our support of the children. At San Diego Unified, now you're talking about cutting 150 routes, meaning transportation of the kids to schools north of 8 and some south of 8. But the majority of them are north of 8. How that will impact the drivers, who and how the parents have said they trust our drivers, San Diego Unified school bus drivers, more than the public transportation system. Also, economically, how will it affect those parents that don't have the money to pay for bus passes or don't have the transportation themselves to get their kids back and forth to school? They deserve better. It will also mean it will take some students longer to get to school, maybe 1 or 2 bus changes, and longer to get home. I urge you to reinstate...
We acknowledge, since you're the president, we gave you some extra time, but we need for you to wrap up, please.
I urge that you reinstate the Magnet Transportation Services. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, board members, Superintendent Dr. Greer, good evening now. I had a good afternoon here earlier. My name is Clark Owsley. I'm an ROTC instructor at Sarah High School. A recent budget argument suggests there is no evidence that ROTC raises student achievement. Additionally, if it becomes necessary for you to look at Plan B, ROTC is on the list as a target for elimination. I wish to discuss these 2 issues and press my support for full funding for ROTC. Thanks to the school district, we now have data director. I can drill down and look at my students and compare them to everyone in my school. To summarize real quickly, the 2007-2008 school year, my cadets scored higher in every single assessment area over the school population. Specifically, in history and science, my cadets compared to the school overwhelmingly, and the reason for that is our books have all the standards in there that we test to. My kids aren't any smarter. Oh, we only have 1 minute? Oh, I apologize.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm going to skip that then. The most important part is I want to show you some student achievement, if I could.
Very briefly.
Cadet Roby, please stand up. $200,000 scholarship, University of Florida. Cadet Amposta, $200,000 scholarship, USD, plus $40,000 president tuition. Cadet Perez, straight 4.0, USD, $200,000 scholarship. Plus, he just received a trustee for $70,000 tuition assistance at USD. One of my cadets is not here because he's playing volleyball for the high school. Has an appointment to the United States Naval Academy and a $200,000 scholarship. He's opting for the Naval Academy. My fifth student here, we just learned she's not even on your program. Today we found out she's going to get a $200,000 scholarship. Ladies and gentlemen, I have over $1 million worth of scholarships to student achievement, and I'm here to tell you that when the budget is only $108,000, that's a cost of $59 per cadet for over $1 million. That's a pretty cheap date. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Frank Engel from Franklin Elementary, and I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm really representing all the parents of Franklin Elementary tonight. I stayed here late just because it's important to all of us that we get our message to you. And first, let's have a few facts. I've got a son in 5th grade and a daughter at Franklin and a daughter in 7th grade at SCPA. And Franklin has 86% free and reduced lunch. We also have 75% English language learners and 3 special ed classes at Franklin. I'm speaking in opposition to sharing one principal between 2 schools. We're on our 3rd principal in 4 months at Franklin. After completing an exhaustive search to find a great, highly qualified candidate. With this change, our current principal will end up being moved to another school, so we'll have 4 principals in less than a year. We have, with the population of students and parents in our school, we really need continuity, stability, and trust, and they're key ingredients. We really hope that you assess the decision and also not just look at the numbers, but look at the population of the school when you're making a decision.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Sue Albritton-Hers, and I'm here to talk about the California Instructional School Grant that we received. It's Assembly Bill 1535. And I was very disappointed when I found out that the district took our grant money last week. The amount of money we thought we had was $679.10. Actually, this is the same week that Michelle Obama broke ground at the White House for an organic garden. We're right in the middle of designing a drip irrigation system with parent volunteers at our site. I would like to tell you all the wonderful things at our garden that the Ocean Beach students participate in. They have lessons in math, language arts, science, and also one thing that is really exciting for me as a teacher at the school is the garden has added excitement to learning. It's exciting to see 6-year-olds giggling and showing excitement for learning, and this is what teaching is all about. So I would like to request that you restore these funds to the children at Ocean Beach Elementary Garden and the other sites in the district.
Thank you. Rebecca Onego, Edwina Jimenez, Estefina Cardoso, Mr. Larry, and Lucia Jamarillo.
Hi, my name's Karen Elaine. I was the last on that list of people that was listed there. I brought Cheryl some items that I'd like for her to hand out to you. I drove down today from Los Angeles, where I currently live and make my living in the motion picture and television industry. I am a product of the San Diego Public City Schools. I grew up in Southeast San Diego. One of those tortured souls, a single-parent family living on welfare, and I rode the school bus from kindergarten through 12th grade. I was very, very fortunate to have generous school teachers. This was pre-Proposition 13 era when there was music in all of the public schools. I went to Allied Gardens and escaped the obvious changes that have happened in Southeast San Diego. It's a much better community now. But when I was growing up there, the threat of drugs and gangs and much more extreme violence was a prominent element there. I have been very fortunate to travel the world with my music, and I recently recorded with London Symphony. And because I can't share the CD with everyone, I thought if I could just play a little bit for the audience here, if you don't mind. Please keep public buses.
Okay, 1 minute.
Please keep public buses. And yes, ma'am. Public buses and magnet schools are very important. I graduated from the School of Korean Performing Arts, first class.
Rebecca Nagel, thank you very much.
That's one of our alumni.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Nagel, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I'm standing here right now because I want the music programs in my school to be kept, because music is life to me and to every school and every kid across the county. And well, music improves a child's mind and memory and skill, and if you take that away, then test scores might go down drastically. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Larry. It says Mr. Larry. That's all it says, Mr. Larry.
Probably not.
No, I don't think
No,
it's just from
no,
Logan.
no.
It's from Logan K-8. This is the Logan K-8 group.
Okay.
Stacy Wade, Lucinda Jaramilla, maybe they all left. Edwino Jimenez and Cardoza. Okay, that was for Logan. All right. The people coming up for magnet busing, you have 1 minute. That's Derby Pattigill, Pat Home, Ingrid Stickler, David Irwin, okay, Holly Bauer, Karen Harris, Monica Oliver, Suzanne Smith, Linda Burton, and John Paul Quinones.
Hi, my name is Ingrid Stickler, and I want you to reconsider the stopping of the school busing for the magnet schools. I went to 12 years of private school, and I was kind of a private school snob and expected to send my children to private schools as well. My mother was working for the San Diego City School District, and she introduced me to the magnet school program. I have one child that's graduated from the magnet school, as well as two that are currently attending at the Language Academy. If the magnet busing has stopped, I currently work in the city of Murrieta, which there's about a 100-mile distance between where I work and my children attend school. If you're a parent, you'll understand that the valuable merits of this program are so valuable to me that I would have a 100-mile distance between my work and my school where my children are going to school. Also, if the buses are terminated, I will consider putting them in private school and taking them from San Diego City School District, so that will also cause the loss of funds for the city. Thank you. Please reinstate the buses.
Okay. Yes, please.
My name is Dave Irving. My children attend Escuela Longfellow. As a teacher, parent, and Californian, I am appalled. I am addressing this board for the second time in 1 year concerning the funding of our children's education. San Diego, sorry, I had to cut my speech. By cutting bus transportation to our school, you have forced many parents to choose schools closer to where they live, thus killing schools like Longfellow Elementary. As I proposed last year, I propose again, as the second largest school district in California, it is time to stand up for our children by standing up to the state's absurd proposal to eliminate $6 billion from education. By saying, no, we can't, the state would be forced to make more appropriate cuts or to consider taxation. If you are unwilling to take this moral stand, you must at least make San Diego Unified's budget transparent to the public. All proposed cuts must be justified with accounting that is clearly shown and easily available. With the likes of Enron, AIG, and Madoff, I am no longer willing to blindly trust your proposals. Furthermore, as a teacher, I am offended to be asked to cut my salary and benefits, especially if district administrators and superintendents are not. You propose taking away bus transportation while continuing to spend tens of thousands of dollars on catering at the district. Please don't tell me they're separate budgets. Let the public see your accounting, your choices, and how you are prioritizing the budget before you kill schools like Longfellow and continue to sacrifice education at the feet of an incompetent legislature. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Monica Mraz-Oliver, and I have 2 children at Escuela Longfellow. I am speaking tonight for the parents of over 650 students at our school alone who couldn't be here. Thousands of other magnet school parents have this same concern, and that is that if you take all the busing away, our dedicated magnet schools that don't draw students from the local community will have such a large drop in attendance that they won't be able to continue to serve their magnet's purpose and will ultimately fail. Our kids love the special focus that Longfellow gives them, and that's a bilingual education and a world community awareness. And it's this love of education and this love of learning that creates success in students. And that's what we're all about. That's what you're about, and that's what we're all striving for. We know you didn't ask for these huge budget reductions. We're just asking you to consider alternatives to 100% across the board reductions. And quickly, you could limit the limits of service to only the most needed areas. You can consolidate the number of stops for increased efficiency. And you can, as other districts have successfully done, charge appropriately to support the cost. Just keep the line item in the budget, please. Thank you.
Very much.
Hi, Suzanne Smith. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I know it's been a long day for everyone. As a proud member of the second graduating class ever from the School of Creative and Performing Arts and an even prouder mom of 2 children who currently attend Longfellow Spanish Immersion, I urge you to reconsider the plan to cancel bus transportation. Magnet schools are a crowning achievement of the San Diego Unified School Districts. Graduates of the 32-year-old language program at Longfellow serve as bilingual doctors in California hospitals and bilingual teachers in our public schools. Graduates of the 31-year-old SCPA program have won Tony Awards and become leaders in the arts, as we saw with Karen. In addition to these wonderful success stories, we must remember an even more important function of these magnet schools. Magnet schools are a form of voluntary desegregation. Every year, thousands of enthusiastic parents and guardians eagerly apply to magnet schools and willingly send their children to other neighborhoods. Without voluntary magnet programs in place, how can the school district create a non-segregated school environment that everyone in the district and the community supports? Thank you. Please continue buses to our magnet schools.
Thank you.
Holly Bauer. I'm a second-generation San Diegan, an educator and a parent of a student at Longfellow Spanish Immersion School, and I'm here to ask the board to reconsider cuts for funding for dedicated magnet programs like Longfellow. Our school is racially and economically diverse. A large number of parents will not be able to afford to drive their children to Longfellow if busing is cut. We urge the board to be more creative and productive in finding solutions to the current budget crises. The board could consider consolidating some stops, increasing the radius outside of which students are eligible for the bus, or charging a minimal fee to families who can afford to pay to help offset the cost. Busing students to magnet schools like Longfellow not only promotes specialized programs like language immersion, it also promotes racial and socioeconomic diversity, and it distributes students more equitably among available school facilities. Without including transportation, especially for families that need it most and cannot afford other options, the board is jeopardizing equal access to public education. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Linda Burton. I have a long history with Longfellow. All three of my children graduated from Longfellow K-8. I don't think it's a mistake or an accident, or aside from the fact that they had me as a wonderful mother, that my children are now bilingual, biliterate, and my oldest daughter working in Los Angeles, her favorite place to work is Los Angeles County Hospital, where she's able to work with other doctors and translate for patients and work with patients that understand her, she's able to communicate with. Or that my middle daughter is working on a master's degree in medical anthropology and wants to take clean water to foreign countries. Or that my youngest is also majoring in Spanish now as she starts off to college. I think this is unlike any other school where we are able to take children from all communities and all of them function. We are now a high-performing school according to the state of California. Why you would want to mess with that, I don't know. We are a Title I school. We have a high percentage of free and reduced lunch. Our children come together. They're a community. It's a sense of community there. I've welcomed in my home over years and years children from all ethnic backgrounds. I'm now a teacher there. I've been teaching with this district for 31 years. My 32nd anniversary comes up in June. I'm sorry, I will not be taking your early retirement package because I love my job and I want to see another generation of children be able to become biliterate.
Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is John Quiñones. I'm a bilingual teacher at Longfellow for 8 years, and I just wanted to have you give my 2 cents, have you reconsider your decision to do the budget cuts on the transportation. As a teacher, I believe that our school will probably not survive these cuts, and we're possibly looking at having the school closed because of the low enrollments from this decision. Our school provides a diverse learning environment. This is a thing that nationwide has been disappearing. We need to defend these type of schools for the future. Let's protect our children from this crisis. We have to draw the line at some point, and definitely we need to save the magnet schools. Look somewhere else to do your cuts. Also, be patient. I believe there's probably a bailout coming at the federal level. There's been bailouts for the bankers, and there'll be one for education.
Thank you.
If the school closes, it's hard to restart it. Let's just be patient. I'm sure we'll save it. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Angelino Reed, Valentino Hernandez, James Luce, Corey Kosuki, okay, maybe, all right, and Jasmine Mendoza, another one? Okay, Mr. Johnson, Russell Johnson.
Should I step up first?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Russell Johnson. I'm a Spanish teacher at Claremont High School here in the district. I'm also a graduate of Longfellow Elementary, where I learned how to speak Spanish. I have 2 daughters. One is there, and she's interested in becoming a teacher as well. Both my parents were teachers. We have something about teaching in the family. An investment now in the school and magnet schools, foreign language, is an investment in the future. If both my daughters, they will become biliterate and bilingual and become teachers in the future, we need to make the investment. Mr. Obama, just recently, you were busy, he said that we need to make an investment in education so that our students are prepared to compete in a global society. Cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jim Luche, and I live at 3866 Vista Grande. This is concerning Rolando Park Elementary School. I've heard that they're going to close. My property borders the school property, and I wrote something down. I don't think I can just speak. How are you saving money in the school district if you're going to spend $5.4 million to change Rolando Park into a junior high or a high school? Aren't you just going to change this into another Horace Mann or Crawford, two failed schools? I don't want their problems in my neighborhood. Use what you have and spend the money for higher education programs for kids, like art, music, sports, and use that $5.4 million for them and not for another failed school.
Thank you. Don Stillwell, Kathy Deacon.
The faint of heart has left us. An observation of the school district through a transportation bus driver's eyes. I've been here for 22 years, and I've transported many students. Mr. Barrera, I transport Kearney F in the morning. I know the program is successful because early in the morning, I get sleepy-eyed Kearney students getting on my bus going to school. Every day, my bus is full. That's 56 passengers, 2 to a seat. In the PM, I do Kearney L. We talk to Jose about being our poster child. Those students come on the bus, but not all of them because they're staying. We have construction tech. Our construction tech made the front page of the San Diego paper with the girls. Okay, who else offers things like that? They have Mesa College. This is just one observation from one bus driver. I do Mission Bay. I take students, Sheila, from your area that would probably go to at Morris. Those students get on with their bags. They come every day, Sheila.
Every day.
Okay? They come every day because they play sports. They're interested. You can't have all the good sports kids at one school. They go to Mission Bay. They're learning. They come to school every day. We really need to take a look at what we're going to do with our kids.
Thank you.
Okay? This is not okay to take away the buses for these magnet students. You are going to create a lot of problems. You're going to open the doors to charter schools when the schools empty out. You're going to reduce our ADA. It's going to be a great big...
We hear you, honey. Thank you very much.
Okay. Keep our school buses rolling. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm the last one?
I think I called some others that didn't respond, so.
Last word. Yasmin Bozen, 381 San Rita Courts, San Diego, California, 92113. Okay, my name is Yasmin Bozen, as I said, and I am the elected chairperson for the District English Learners Advisory Committee, or DLAC. And I'm also a parent, and my son Maurice goes to Lincoln High School. DLAC is a mandated committee to give formal advice to the district on behalf of the English learners' parents. Therefore, I'm here representing the parents of more than 38,000 EL students. DLAC strongly and urgently support the continuation and expansion of the ELST program. DLAC wants to see that the ELST program continues as a high-quality direct support to our 38,000 English learner students. As you know, EIA funds will be directly sent to school next year. This money is for ELS and educational disadvantaged students. As a DLAC chairperson, and I ask you to protect the integrity of the ELST position. We have seen other programs in the past suffer situations like this. DLAC wants this board to pass policy and procedures so that the Office of Language Acquisition continues to screen, hire, place, train, and monitor ELSTs. We believe that the thousands of English learners families know that ELSTs are agents of change for their children. Because of the ELSTs, many schools now have a strong system in place to support teaching and learning ELS. ELSTs make a huge difference. And in closing, you should know I am an active community and parent leader. I have many difficult economic decisions made, like not working full-time. As a DLAC chair, I attend many meetings, conference trainings, as you name it. And I do because I deeply care about helping EL students and families. I do believe in public education. That's why my son goes to Lincoln High School. And I hope you will take my words and DLAC advice very seriously. Please protect the integrity of the ELSTs program, and as it was designed by the Office of Language Acquisition. Only you, the members of the governing boards, can make sure that this happens. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, with that, we will take a 5-minute recess and adjourn upstairs for debriefing. Thank you for coming to the meeting tonight.